Hello and welcome to episode 212 of the Random Nintendo Podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Angel.
And I am Kevin.
Wow, what a fun bunch we are. It sounds like we're wide awake, which is good because our episode title is
Look at that waveform.
Wake Me Up.
Look at how crazy
Yeah,
those
why is
are.
my waveform so high?
Well,
I know I have a nasally voice.
That does have to do with our more baritone voices versus Jason's more nasally one. Like,
Is there a way of calling out to have an annoying voice even though I run the thing?
yeah, typically your kind like produces sharper waveforms. So
My kind.
Your
I
kind.
see.
you
Oh,
sharp
I like that.
voice.
You're kind.
Well, let's get back to the matters at hand, which is the episode's called Wake Me Up, and it's called that because we're talking about Link's Awakening, as well as the fact that there's been, really for lack of a better term, an awakening with the Switch lineup.
Did you come up with that name? Because I think it's a great name.
That was
did
all
come up
me.
with that
That was,
name.
yeah. You, on the other hand, God.
That was him.
Jesus.
That was him. But
Good job, sir.
Thank you.
It's almost like we did an earlier take of this where it went the opposite way, and then it somehow became this take. But anyway, yeah, so we're talking about Link's Awakening as well as...
Just ruin the magic.
Uh-huh.
The podcasting magic.
As well
podcast
as
magic.
where we were when we first heard that song.
What?
Do you remember where you were when
Where
you
I first heard Evanescence's Bring Me to Life?
Daredevil.
Yeah. That's a lot of-
I don't know. I had that album, not gonna lie. It was like Female Linkin Park, so I was like, oh.
All right.
all right. Anyway,
It got real quiet. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking about Evanescence. We're talking about Link's
Read the room,
Awakening,
Jason.
where I did not. And then the other part of the name is that it was a quiet first half of the year for Switch, and then we started getting kind of stream releases. But now September is like a wall. It's like the library really sort of woke up, if you will. So there's a lot of games. It's actually why this podcast is a day late. We have a bunch of impressions to share. We have Zelda, obviously. We have Untitled Goose Game. We have Sayonara Wild Hearts. And those are just games that came out within the first day. Or within one day of each other, I mean. Then on top of that, we have Angel playing the Switch version of Cuphead. And we are checking out a truck racing simulator on Switch called Truck Racing Championship. So there's a lot of games to talk about. And then there's the other side of the coin, too. Because if there's so many games coming out, how do devs, especially indies, stay in the conversation? Become the games that we talk about here on the show. How to get noticed, that sort of thing. So we're going to dive into that, too, a little later, along with impressions of yet another game, which is Mario Kart Tour. Can I help you open your Sunny D? Is that what that is? Is that Sunny D?
The spike.
Yep. Just one sharp spike. I got it.
You got it? You're
Yep.
good? You're good? You're tasting the... What's their slogan? Taste the sunshine? I don't know.
Taste the power.
Taste the power of the sun, right? No.
No, that is it. But I'm wondering if it's other here. Yes, taste the power of the sun.
Not taste the sunshine.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, for anyone that doesn't want to hear us talk about Sunny D, we have timestamps on the blog post for this
that's good, son.
episode. And we have them under the video. So, you know, you can jump to a game you care
It's
about.
way better than the Texas one.
The one thing I recommend... Yes, well, Texas Sunny D, that was weird.
Yeah, this also has like 19 grams of sugar.
Well,
That's why it tastes better. The one thing I was going to say is anyone listening, stay till the very end of the show because we have a contest we're going to announce. But you can win stuff. But anyway, let's start with games. Let's actually flip the script a little because there's so many games. It kind of makes place to start with what we've been playing because that's just the bulk of the episode.
Whoa.
So, well, I know we're wild and crazy. Once you open that Sunny D, just chaos. But yeah, what better place to start than the episode's namesake and discuss Evanescence? No, discuss the Switch remake of Link's Awakening. And Kevin, you and I have both
all right,
been playing
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, good chat, Angel. But Kevin, you've been playing it, right? And
Yeah.
this is a revisit for you. You played it before.
Yeah, I played Link's Awakening when it was released originally. I don't remember beating it, though. So, this is definitely... And not only that, but it just seems... This remake, it absolutely feels new to me, just because I don't remember... Like I said, I don't remember ever playing... Well, I remember playing it, but not to, like, the extent of that I remember a Oracle Seasons, Oracle Ages.
Sure. So, how are you liking it so far? I guess it is if it's fresh. I can't really ask you how to compare.
Like, so far so good. It's a really charming game.
Yeah.
Compared to, I guess, you know, Breath of the Wild has its charm with its art style, but something about this one just looks so adorable. Like,
yeah, the presentation's really like that's. I think I haven't actually played the old Game Boy one, but obviously I've seen it before, and I think that the main differing factor. I mean, there's little quality of life improvements. You can mark the map now, and you can skip the boss animation if you've already tried to beat them once. That sort of thing. But like the presentation's the thing, and it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, just because of the art style, like they're able to get away with pretty much making everything exactly how they envisioned it.
Yeah.
Versus like Breath of the Wild, where like some areas look pretty and stuff from far away, but I mean when you get close to stuff, because you can, like, things start to look like the magic kind of falls apart a little bit in some cases.
Sure, yeah.
And also some character designs also like don't mesh as well with others. I found like I don't know, some character designs were hit and miss in Breath of the Wild for me, but everything in Link's Awakening, just from what I've seen, obviously just looks really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just really, it's like, yeah, it's cohesive, like, across the entire game. And granted, I haven't gotten too far into it. I just haven't had time to play it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, just everything... It's just a lovely game to look at, honestly.
It really is. It's so cool. Like, I mean, I feel like every time I go to a new area on the map, which, you know, like a different environment or whatever, I start just re-gushing over how good the, like, toy aesthetic is and that tilt shift and all that. And, like, the detail is so great, too. Because, like, did you notice the moblins have little belly buttons?
Yes.
Like, it's, like, everything's so detailed. And, like, the music matches that really well. Like, it's orchestral,
the music's
but it's all, like,
incredible in this game as
toy-like.
well.
Yeah. Like, I really like how they did, like, traditional Zelda themes and songs, like, when you get an item. But instead of it being like a normal Zelda thing, it's like on a little toy xylophone or something.
Yeah,
like, it's so great.
I like
so
that
charming.
one song that was just like dogs and cats barking and meowing. I forgot what town it is, but it's just made up of dogs and cats meowing and barking. It's a good track. You haven't encountered it yet?
I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, what?
It's like it's that main first town, I guess, where you find there's like a chain shop in front of the house.
I've been to that town. It's the only town.
Well, yeah, I guess
Really?
that place has dogs and cats.
They do have dogs and cats, and you can go up to them and go yip yip and things like that. But
You can hit them, and they hit you back.
that's true, and you can of course grab the
chicken.
The chicken.
Is stealing from the salesman still just as intimidating?
I haven't tried it because I'm an upstanding citizen.
I died once.
Oh,
Well, there's the difference between us. Right there. I haven't tried it. I already died from it.
wait,
Not that I think it does.
did everyone call you a
it's-
thief for the rest of the game though? Because I think that was a thing in the first one.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Actually, I don't remember.
That would haunt me. Like, I would not be okay with that.
Yeah, it's like anytime your name pops up, it's just like, oh, hey, thief. And
Yeah.
that's it.
I will say, separate from the thief thing, like the attention to detail with, like, you know, the cat and dog song or the belly buttons or whatever, like that attention to detail may actually be a fault in a way. Because I don't know about you, Kevin, but I've seen some serious frame rate dips. And
Yes.
some serious slowdown.
I don't get why
Even
this
on
game
TV?
has insane frame rate drop. It makes no sense considering that this is the same company that produced Breath of the Wild, which I don't ever remember really
Wait, I
having
thought this one
any
was Grezzo.
significant.
So Grezzo developed it, but it's Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's a first-party game
yeah,
at the end of the day. Like, if Nintendo says we don't want frame rate drops, they will ensure there aren't. It's almost like, in a way, this one I feel is more graphically intense than Breath of the Wild because this one has so much more
I mean,
minute
they
detail.
can patch
to
that stuff.
everything.
There was some parts of Breath of the Wild that had a lot of frame rate drops, and then later they just patched it and suddenly.
Yeah, and I'm
just
sure they'll
worked.
patch it here. It's just weird because first-party games, excluding Breath of the Wild, usually don't have that. So it's kind of surprising.
I guess my point is, like, this is a much, much, much smaller game than
True.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
True.
And it has
I mean, it doesn't
some
have to
of the
render
issues.
a whole world at once. Like,
It's that tilt shift blur. It takes a lot of work to blur the corners of the screen, I guess. No, but it's kind of strange to see. It's not detrimental to the game. But
No,
it's
yeah,
definitely
absolutely. It's
surprising. That's
it's a very small gripe that
Yeah.
I would say that I have with the game. Just the frame rate drops, but that doesn't stop it from still being a pretty good game.
Yeah, I'm
I
really.
mean, that's just an overworld thing, like when you're in dungeons.
Nope, it's whenever there's a bunch of enemies on screen, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's more common on the overall because you have more going on, but
Yeah.
it can happen in dungeons. But yeah, it is just a good game. Like, it's interesting because I was saying before, I haven't actually played Link's Awakening ever. Never played the original. Never played the Game Boy Color DX one. And now going into it first time, I didn't realize how different of a type of Zelda it
It's
is.
a very weird Zelda game.
Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of gameplay, it's actually exactly the type of 2D Zelda you'd expect when someone says the phrase 2D Zelda, like, almost to a T. You have dungeons, you need to collect items, you unlock new abilities, there's an overworld, you can go fishing, except it's all just, like, crammed down and, like, compressed into, like, this little pocket experience and super streamlined. So, like, if you want to go fishing, you just walk up to the house in town that has a lake and you just go fishing. You don't have to go find it or anything. Or, like, within minutes of starting the game, it's already like, all right, there's 8 items. You need to get them. You beat the windfish, and you win. Just like, okay, there's no real setup here. Just going.
So you'd be able to confidently say, like, oh yeah, this game, I'm definitely going to beat it.
Yeah, I think so. This reminds me a lot of A Link Between Worlds in terms of size
Before
and
Luigi
scope.
comes out?
I'm not making promises because I still need to beat Mario World. But I am
you have
confident.
one more day.
Listen, I'm confident I'll be able to.
Are you past?
I
are you in
am
progress?
confident. By the next
you just
episode.
told me you were in World 3?
No, because I was playing 5 other games.
Which is literally just 2 levels?
But I was playing 5 other. What?
You're
Oh,
World
it is
3?
2. I haven't touched it since the last time we spoke. because I was playing other games. How else do I give impressions on this lovely show? Yeah. But no, what I was going to say is, like, yeah, I think I would beat Link's Awakening, because, like, everything, it's just very... the dungeons are close together, worlds, the dungeons themselves are compact, like, each room maybe scrolls 2 screens at most. It's just super brisk paced, and I like that. Which I think I'm coming to a realization, actually, now that I'm saying this, and saying how I kind of like... You know, I like A Link Between Worlds. It's very similar. I think I'm starting to prefer...
Oh, my God.
You're going to hate what I'm going to say? Do you know what I'm going to say? I think I'm starting to prefer 2D Zeldas over 3D ones.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah, because,
I prefer the 2D
right?
Zeldas.
Because they check all the boxes that... They both check the same boxes. Like, don't get me wrong, Breath of the Wild is, like, super cool, and it's able to achieve all sorts of incredible things that are, like, open world and whatnot, but... I don't know. There's just something like the streamlinedness, the kind of breeziness of Link's Awakening and
I don't think
and Link Between Worlds. I kind of like it.
Because I feel like I mean, Wind Waker is definitely my favorite 3D Zelda, and Minish Cap is my favorite 2D Zelda, and I kind of like them about the same. So.
Yeah, Minish Cap is the best 2D Zelda.
I have actually never played Minish Cap. I'm really bad at playing the handheld ones. Now, here's the good news, guys. Well, it's on 3DS.
If you beat this game and you like it...
Go play Minish Cap.
I mean, yeah, you have it. You're an ambassador, man, so it should be in your 3DS.
That's a little redundant.
Ambassador, man.
I'm a superhero. All I do is greet people. It's my power. I show up and guide them to where they need to go. But yeah, it's I'm kind of realization. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Wind Waker's one of my favorite Zelda games. Breath of the Wild, like I was saying.
I know.
I'm glad
having a preference doesn't mean you dislike the other. Yes.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize the ones that click with me are the 2D ones. I think it's because they're a little more structured, even though they're not really, but they're more compact. So.
Play A Link to the Past and see if you still feel the same way.
Yeah, because
that game is like
but
not.
I know not at all. But Link Between Worlds is, which is why I like that one.
Well,
Four Swords.
They're like
structured.
Let's make these games simpler so that anyone could beat it.
Which is what I'm like. Thank you, Nintendo.
And it works.
I clearly only have a few hours to play these things. So this is great.
He got Jason to beat it. Mado was disappointed because, like other people, he said it was way too easy and too short.
Which game?
Link Between Worlds.
Oh, okay.
But that seems to be why I like it. So go figure. But what's interesting with Link's Awakening versus Link Between Worlds is like it's. I mean, we were kind of touching on this. Like the vibe is so different. It's very, very quirky. Like, even though it's delivering a traditional Zelda formula, I feel like it's also kind of undermining it, or at least being, like, super meta about it, in a lot of different ways. Like, some of the writing, they're playing into tropes of Zelda. Like, his sword shows up and like, oh, it's your sword, your name's on it. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or, like, the kids in town, they're all giving you instructions on what to do with no, like, fake padding around it. It's just like, here's how to do this thing. I'm a kid, I don't know. And you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, those things like that.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm just a kid. Yeah. And, like, even the way the owl swoops in, he's like, okay, here's the next piece of exposition I'm going to give you. Okay, now you're going over here. Like, it's all very, like, sort of self-aware. And it makes for a kind of, like, funny meta experience that then seems to escalate because they just start throwing in all the Nintendo references. Like, there's a woman who has a dog, and she talks about how it has, like, fur and everything, but it's a chain chomp, which is metal. Or, like... you're doing a dungeon.
Making assumptions.
No, she literally talks about the dog's fur. It is metal. Have you not played any Mario game ever?
No. Yeah, but have you touched a chain shop? They never really... I don't know.
I've touched fake ones, and they're plastic.
If you have very fine fur, that's just cut.
I guess. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that one. But, okay, how about this one? You're in a dungeon. You're crawling around. You go down a ladder. Suddenly you're in a 2D side-scroller with Goombas. Or, like, you're in a dungeon, and then suddenly there's a weird, like, slightly knockoff-looking Kirby
there was 2D
out.
stuff in Zelda, too.
Yeah, but not with Goombas and platforming.
Well, never not with Goombas. But...
Or platforming. There's, like, you actually jump on platforms and stuff. So it's just very, like, different, which is cool. Because in a way, as someone who's, like, only experiencing it now, 20 years removed, it feels like this game was kind of, I don't know if it was intentional, but sort of set the template for how, like, Nintendo would approach all direct Zelda sequels. The idea of, like, it's not just more of the same. They always try and layer on something weird on top. So in this case, it's just the atmosphere. But, like, you look at Majora's Mask, and it's like, oh, we'll take players to another world, like Link's Awakening, and then we'll do something different. In this case, the time limit, which is kind of like the shrinking down of the world on this one. Or, like, I don't know, Spirit Tracks falling up Hourglass, Phantom Hourglass. Like, hey, what if we get a game about trains? Which if Nintendo announced, hey, guys, here's the first Zelda for the DS, it's about trains, I feel like it wouldn't work, like, people wouldn't resonate with it quite as well as when they're like, okay, here's the foundation we laid with a traditional game, now here's trains. And I feel like Link's Awakening kind of started that idea of, like, here's the thing you're used to, now here's something weird on top of it that we would not put as our first foot forward. But maybe I'm reading too much into it, I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I got.
Here's what you do best. So.
Yep, a little. And obviously it does work very well. So, I'm happy with it. Did you try chamber dungeons at all, Kevin?
Chamber dungeons?
So there's
The build your own thing.
the build your own?
I haven't tried it out yet.
Me neither, but it's conceptually it's interesting.
Yeah, I hear the execution isn't great.
Yeah, that's what kind of bothers me. Like, for those who don't know, basically, as you go through the game, you get these individual tiles that represent rooms. Some have treasure chests, some have obstacles, etc., and then you mix and match them to create your own dungeons or to meet certain challenges by arranging dungeons in certain orders. That's kind of the premise. And it really does feel conceptually like this is Zelda Maker, but not quite. And that's apparently where the idea came from. I was doing an interview on IGN with Eiji Aonuma, the producer of Zelda, and he was saying that Miyamoto came to him as just like, hey, we want to make a Mario Maker style Zelda game, and they ended up selling on this because they thought the complexity of real Zelda puzzles and real Zelda dungeons would be too much, so why don't we just shove it in the game where most of the game has single room dungeons anyway because it was made for Game Boy, and then that's kind of how this idea came to be. But the downside of this is you can't really, to your point about implementation, you can't really do anything with it from what I've gathered. Like, there's 0 ways to share your dungeon once you make it.
No,
in an online sense.
Oh, yeah.
You can pass it to a
with
friend.
Amiibo.
Yes, you can pass it to a friend either on Amiibo or just by handing them a Switch, but there's no, like, it's on your file or it's on theirs with no real trace back to yours. Like, it's just very segmented feeling. Yeah, disconnected. And there's modifiers you can get to, like, kind of have creative control over the dungeons, but not really. So, I don't know. I think, like, contrary to what they say, I think they could still do a full one. Like, it'd be cool.
I think this was just like the test run.
Yeah, that's what I'm
for
thinking.
A full Zelda Maker.
Yeah, this is like how Four Swords came with a Link to the Past on Game Boy Advance, and then they spun it off into Four Swords Adventures, and it was significantly more fleshed out and everything. Like, I imagine ultimately they could do that with this. But as it stands, it's just kind of a weird little quirky thing that no one's even bothering to try, at least out of us, our 2 people that played it.
But yeah, I really have no... I've never been the creative type to be like, oh,
yeah,
man,
kind of same.
let me make this awesome Mario level.
Yeah.
I'm usually the guy that's like checking out the cool levels, and the fact that for this I gotta make it, and then not only that, but then I gotta dig up an amiibo and save it on there, and then bring it over to a friend's house. It's like, no, that's already too much for me.
You could also go buy the super cool Link's Awakening amiibo, but that also requires money and time and doing something.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a really nice amiibo. It's very nice. It pairs well with the keychain from It pairs well with the keychain from E3, the little one. It's actually funny. I got when I was in line to play the demo, where they then gave me the keychain, which I didn't know was a thing. I was pre-ordering the amiibo in line. I was like 3 people back, and then I played a demo, and they hand me another one. I'm like, oh, I didn't really need the amiibo, did I? I have him right
That
here.
is hilarious.
It wasn't
that was funny.
It was. Thanks. You know what the best sign of a joke working is? 0 laughter and someone going, "That's funny. That's hilarious." That's always how you know a joke lands. But anyway, so that's Zelda.
Oh,
yeah.
Also $60 too much for this game.
How much would you pay?
I'd pay $40 for this.
I was gonna say it looks like a $39.99 game.
I'm content with the 60, but
Well,
I know. I'm just saying me personally, but like I get why they charge that because of the production value. But I see where you're coming from in terms of content amount. And
yeah.
So I guess I did forget the key part here. Would you recommend people check it out, or would you say? I guess it sounds like you're saying wait till it goes down.
I would say wait until it goes down in price.
Nintendo games rarely go down in price. I mean, they do.
Black Friday sometimes.
More so they do. Yeah, definitely more now than before, but yeah, still.
So are you, Angel? Would you end up getting it if it came down to 40, or are you just not interested? Because you're more of a 3D Zelda guy, aren't you? Or do you like both?
I just kind of play whatever Zelda. Just looks interesting. I mean, I plan on playing it, but maybe a couple years later. I don't know. There's too many games right now.
There are. Yeah. That's kind of the theme of the episode, isn't it? There's too many.
It could be pushed off. If there's a game I would want to play close to when it comes out, is at least like Luigi's Mansion or Dragon Quest, which came out
on Friday.
Yeah, last Friday.
Yeah. I will say in the zeitgeist, if you will, Link almost had his thunder stolen by another game, a Goose. Like, I feel like Untitled Goose game went super viral over like that launch weekend, and now like K-Rock was talking about it one morning, and like Chrissy Teigen's tweeting about it. Like currently this weekend, like it.
Blink-182 did a shout out.
Blink-182 did a shout out. Yeah, it's they did. Was it Mark Hoppus who did it?
It was Mark Hoppus.
He's a pretty big gamer guy.
I guess they played TwitchCon. Which is weird.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's kind of strange. You know, it's it's not funny. I did see
temper those expectations.
Everyone lower your expectations. I'm not a comedian. No, but I did see.
You should have had none, but
yeah, but I did see. I can't remember. I think it was right before E3. Mark Hoppus was tweeting something like he was having lunch with his son, and he asked his son, "What do you think Nintendo's going to announce at E3?" And his son rambled for like the entire lunch, like 40 straight minutes.
Jeez.
And I was like, "Oh, my kindred spirit. Mark Hoppus is my dad, I guess, because that's literally the exact same thing I would do. But granted, I'm not 8.
That should be the name of the podcast.
Mark Hoppus
is my dad.
Yeah, that's actually... What would you talk about? I guess just Mark Hoppus being your dad? Yeah, we should have called it that. Oh, well. But anyway, Goose Game. I was getting to Goose Game. I think I'm the only one of those 3 of us that has it and has played it.
I've played it.
You played a demo, right? At GDC?
I mean, it was the full game, but I just stopped playing at some point.
What do you mean it's the full game? It wasn't out yet.
Yeah, like they pretty much had the complete version of the game. Like, but I'm not gonna pay for like 2 hours.
Right. Well, okay, so you know how it works, Kevin. Have you played it all?
No, I haven't played.
I mean, I beat that whole garden section.
Oh, that's just the first part. Yeah. Well, anyway, all right. So to catch people up, here's the basic premise. For those who don't know, you're a goose, and you ruined it. You honk things up. There we go. Literally and figuratively.
Honk things up?
Honk things up. You, yeah. Just be glad I didn't call the episode that somehow, or convince you guys we should call it that. But anyway, the game basically sends you, kind of like Angel was saying, through a series of areas. There's different obstacles to learn about, and you use your like goosey abilities of walling and grabbing and straight up honking, and you basically need to complete different goals in each area. And it's the goose is pretty versatile. He can do a lot. He can, like, you'd think, oh, he just grabs and goes, but you can actually
lift his neck.
Yep, he can lift and lower his neck. He can grab things. He can swim. He can flap his wings to scare humans. He can run faster, but kind of like in a racing game, there's a caveat of he turns wider if he runs. Little things like that. And then you also have controls over the camera, so you can actually zoom in to do little precise things or zoom out to kind of track where the humans are at any given moment. And you use all this to try and solve the puzzles, because at its core, what Goose Game really is, Untitled Goose Game really is a puzzle game. Like, I don't know if you got this vibe when you were playing at GEC, Angel, but to me, the structure kind of reminded me of like Mario 64 or perhaps Mario Odyssey, where in those games, as anyone that's played them knows, you revisit the same self-contained area multiple times, but with a different objective each time. But this is maybe more like Odyssey, where they give you all the objectives at once. The level doesn't actually change. Like 64, each time you go back, it's slightly tweaked to achieve what goal you need. Odyssey is just like, here's a small playground, go do your thing.
I mean, to me, this just felt like a real-time, like, point-and-click game, because it's just like, oh, just find a bunch of objects and just see what interacts with what. Like, you're just looking at all the interactions, basically.
A little. I mean, it's a little more than that, because some is as simple as interacting with an object. You're right. Like, there's a sprinkler, you turn it on, the guy's like, oh, my sprinkler, and turns it off.
Yeah.
But then there are others that are like, actually, you have like a series of events you need to achieve in order to cause a thing to work your way. Like, some require being stealthy. You may need to set distractions with some objects in order to sneak something else past a human. The best of the bunch is, when it sort of daisy chains all those together, which is kind of what I'm getting at, where you basically have a sandbox where you need everything to kind of work in tandem. So it's kind of like an environmental puzzle. I guess in a way it's like a point and click. But structurally, just the way they sort of dump you in, it was like, here's a list of things to do, kind of just felt Mario-ish to me. But an example of how daisy chains is early on, I think actually you probably did this one, Angel, is... convincing a groundskeeper to put on a sun hat. Mm-hmm. So in this one, like, the hat's out of reach for you and your neck, so you can't just grab it and toss it on him. So instead, you have to do this kind of, not elaborate, but I'm not talking about ones later on because the whole game is puzzles. I don't want to spoil anything, but first one I'll say. So first you need to like pluck a flower out of a garden. That gets him to kneel down to replant it. Then you snatch his hat off his head, and you need to technically go run it into a nearby lake and drop it in. But he's a human. He can move faster than you. So if he starts chasing you, he can get his hat back. So what you need to then do is set up a distraction as you run off with the hat, which ends up being, in my case, it was throwing on the sprinkler, because the human has a higher priority to turn off the sprinkler. And then the game nicely tells you what the higher priorities are, because as soon as you do an action, the human has a little speech bubble with an icon of what he's going to focus on at that given moment. And it's kind of like the domino effect of, okay, you do this to do this to do this, and you want to do that, and you do this other thing. And then eventually you get the hat to the lake, and he has no choice but to go put on his sun hat, and that's how you achieve it. So that's kind of like the flow of it. And the thing is, like, even if he does catch you, because I was saying, he'll catch up to you, and then what do? You don't die or anything. The only consequence in the game is him grabbing the hat back. There's literally no death, there's no high scores, there's no lives, there's no game overs, no failure screens. You just gotta follow him back into the garden and give it another go. And of course now things are set up a little differently because it has the effects of what you just did. And that's kind of one of the things I liked about the whole atmosphere of Untitled Goose Game, is it's just you, a goose, being a jerk to humans in like kind of this pressure-free playground. And what really enhances that feeling that it's just you, a goose, being a jerk to humans, is the presentation, the attention to detail. Like, they have little things like whenever you're close to a human, your eyes and the human's eyes will lock on, kind of like how Link's did in Wind Waker, which, you know, it's a very small thing, but kind of nice touch. Or when you steal a radio and drop it face down on the ground, it'll actually play a muffled version of whatever the sound effect was. Like, they actually paid attention to those things. And it's all presented with, like, super clean graphics. There's no HUD whatsoever. Nothing's clearing it up. And then on top of that, there's the soundtrack. And up until you engage with a human, it's basically ambient noise. There's birds, there's wind, there's cars, whatever. But once you do engage, the game has a dynamic soundtrack that essentially begins to mix in bits of piano from classic, I assume it's pronounced Debussy because he's French, pieces, like the classical composer. And it works surprisingly well to sort of amp up tension in the same sort of laid-back, chill way the rest of the game is presented. Because, well, actually, to back it up, I was reading an interview with the game's composer over on The Verge, and we'll link to it in the blog post for anyone who's interested. But basically, the game has 3 different states of music. So there's silent ambient noise when nothing's going on. There's like a low-energy state that's sort of like the Goose equivalent of the Jaws strings coming in. Like, as you're approaching, it kind of does that. And then there's what they call the chase state, which is when the human catches you in your act of your goosery, and that's when it like really ramps up. But what's cool is because it's all happening on the fly, it's all pulling from multiple public domain Debussy pieces or compositions or whatever you all call it. I think they said there were 6 preludes they had access to, but because it's doing all that, what that means is there's apparently 52,000 different musical combinations in the game, all based on these little riffs on piano. And as a player, since it's all reactive to what you do, it just presents kind of like a heightened experience in that sort of chill environment, which, you know, for a game about Goose, that seems like a pretty cool extra thing to throw in, and it works really well. So that kind of sums up the whole game, actually, is for a game about Goose, the amount of effort they put into everything, the puzzle design, the sandbox design, the attention to detail, it really goes above and beyond what you would think a game about Goose would do. Like, they didn't just make a game where it's like, haha, I'm a goose. They made an entire, like, experience around it, and a very good one at that. Or, you know, to put it another way, it's deserving of all that viral attention that's been getting.
Did Goat Simulator come out on the Switch?
It did, and see, that's why I thought Untitled Goose Game might...
Simulator?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh,
maybe?
Fun.
Is that the one where you have to, like, send the carrier pigeons off?
No, you're just, like, playing as a pigeon, and you could, like, poop on people, but your poop can also explode. And you can also, like, carry people and just, like, drop them anywhere.
I'm just throwing this out there. That doesn't sound like much of a simulator to me. Doesn't sound real.
Well, it's as much of a simulator as Goat Simulator.
I know. That's what I was about to say. Is I kind of was half expecting Untitled Goose Game to be like Goat Simulator.
I mean, it's made by the same people. So.
Oh, no wonder. Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of expecting it to be kind of like this, you know, it's just wacky physics and you're a goat and you're like literally spinning through the air with ragdoll physics and stuff. But like Goose Game actually like, it is grounded in reality somewhat. It's just kind of like this fun, quirky thing.
It's a puzzle game first.
Yeah, exactly. It's a puzzle game about a goose, opposed to a game where you play as a goose and then they're like, what do we do now? So that was kind of cool. And I would recommend it. It's like, I mean, it's not particularly long. I haven't beaten it, but it's not particularly long from what I've heard. But it's just kind of a charming little thing. Like, it's worth the attention it's getting.
How much is it?
15.
Do you think this one's going to go under the... Yeah, Jason's going to beat this by the end of the year.
Why is everything about me beating games?
Well, just because you mentioned it's a short game, so...
Oh, potentially. I mean, it's only a few hours.
I mean, that's kind
the
of...
next game I'm going to talk about, I did beat, because it's even shorter.
I mean, that's kind of the first thing in my head anytime you play any game. It's like, well, Jason beat this one.
But me not being a game isn't necessarily indicative of the game being bad or good, because I don't beat anything, really. Which is why these are impressions.
No, I know. Well, yeah.
The few games I beat, yeah, there's few and far between. But this next one I did beat. And I'm going to be honest, like, Goose Game may have the spotlight its release week. And as much as I love Goose Game for existing and being a very good game in its own right, I sort of saved the best for last, at least among the games I've been playing. And that game is Sayonara Wild Hearts. Which, for me personally, this is the indie game to be at the moment. Game isn't exactly the right word for it. I mean, yes, it's a video game. But without trying to sound too much like a marketing tagline here, it really feels to me like almost like an interactive concept album, or like a new type of concept album where you're like playing it as it goes. And I mean, really what you're getting at the end of the day is a rhythm runner of sorts. So the whole game boils down to 2 actions. You're moving with the control stick to collect hearts on a road you go down, and you're hitting time button presses to perform actions, so quick time events. But the different ways the game does this, from camera angles to activities you're doing in game, like it really offers a lot of variety, and it's really cool. Because, you know, you'll have the camera behind your back, then it becomes side-scrolling, then it's pointing backwards towards you as you run into the screen, then you go into first person, then there's suddenly a gun on your bike, then you have to, like, surf on top of your bike, then you're in, like, this weird, like, VR goggle thing, the list goes on. It's really cool. It's like nothing is repeated. It's really cool. And to like just give you an idea of how like creative it gets and how cool it is, there's one particularly interesting level called Parallel Universe, in which there are two people. Each of them are snapping, so the music that song is snaps in it, and every time it snaps, the road you're on actually changes to a different road entirely. So you kind of think about the layouts of both roads and where the hearts are, and it keeps switching with the beat. And then they introduce a third layer on top of that, and soon you start to see patterns and layouts between each of the three views, and kind of anticipate where I go next to the rhythm and everything. But it's just like, it's a really cool approach to doing it. And that's why halfway through the game, it gets crazier from there. Like, it's really cool. And it's all fun and well executed, but what really, to me, kind of elevated the game is how the gameplay is then paired with the presentation. Like, the game's visuals almost perfectly match the fact
aesthetics
that
are really cool.
Yeah, because it's kind of it's a pop album, and it's like the aesthetics are very much like a synth pop sort of vibe. And I don't necessarily mean like how the presentation is paired with the gameplay in the sense of like not every beat in the song actually matches up with what you're doing on screen. In fact, it doesn't always. There's times it literally doesn't, but instead it tends to have these key moments that the sync of the music and the gameplay like really hits at the right spot. Like a big enemy will land right at the beat drop or something like that, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, structurally and visually, the thing, it feels, like I was trying to say, more like a concept album you're playing than a video game that has some music built into it or something. It's in a way, like, you can really view it through two lenses, and that gives you pretty different outcomes of how you see the game. Like, as a game, it has what you expect. Like, each stage has a high score to achieve, you're ranked on bronze, silver, gold, you progress from level to level, it's pretty straightforward flow, you know, you go from world to world, you encounter new bosses in each. And the levels are actually kind of small, sometimes too small. They're really broken up. Like, there are times that you'll be, you know, going into a new world, you're going towards a gang of enemies, you get to a gang of enemies, and the level just stops. And then the next level picks up, and now you're catching up to a gang of enemies as they run from you, and it just stops. And then the next one's the boss fight. But, and some of those can be like, I'm talking like a minute and a half, maybe. But, it kind of makes sense because the whole game's relatively short, like I was starting to say. Like, I was able to get through the whole story in under 2 hours. And, you know, similar to Goose Game, there's no real way to die.
How much was that one?
Also, it was 13, but when I said there's two lenses of looking at it, hold on, you'll see what I mean. Because it's 13. You know where this is going. Yeah. But so I was going to say, as a game thing, if you, like, there's no way to die. If you crash, you miss a cue, you fall off stage, whatever, it's very forgiving. It just resets you a few seconds prior. No real penalty. Your score isn't halved or anything like that. In fact, if you die enough times in one spot, the game's just like, do you want to skip this spot? Like, you could just skip this spot. It's totally fine. Because they just want you to keep going through the experience. Which then brings me to the thing I think you knew I was getting at, which is, if you view it as an album, like a concept album, a lot of these choices and the price suddenly make a lot more sense. Because it's about, you know, it's about as long as a full-length album, time-wise, perhaps a little longer. You don't die because you're in it for the music as much as anything else, and, you know, death means not getting to finish a music track, which, that's weird. They have Queen Latifah randomly narrating the game, which, like, she's in music, not in video games, so there's that.
She's also in movies.
She is also in movies.
Started in the hit Taxi with
Jimmy
I
Fallon.
didn't know she was in music. I thought she was just in movies.
No, she did music in, like, the 90s.
That was a joke, by the way. Taxi's a horrible movie.
I've never seen it, but I kind of want to. We have a friend.
It's got Jimmy Fallon. I don't like Jimmy Fallon.
We have a friend of ours who, I'll tell you, I don't want to just name drop him. Basically, he loves that movie and swears by it.
Do I know this person?
You
have
do.
I interacted with
You
this
have,
person?
and you're friends with him, and I think I just ended the friendship right here, right now.
Who is it? I'm not continuing this podcast until you tell me who it is.
I guess I could say his name is Nivek.
Nivek likes that movie?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Nivek.
I was sure texting that we shouted him out on this episode. But anyway, if you look at it through the lens of an album with Queen Latifah of the hit, well-received movie Taxi.
There's like a funny scene in Taxi when they're like in a helium store or something like that. No, like
I've never seen it. Don't look
they
at me
get
like
hit
I'll know.
by like a helium tank. It's pretty funny.
Huh.
That's the only praise I will give Taxi.
It was Taxi was such an interesting movie because it was when like Fallon was done with SNL and thought he could be a movie star, and then because he had Fever Pitch and stuff, and then Taxi's like, no, Fallon, don't, and then he kind of just did nothing for 5 years, and then suddenly he hosted late night.
in Spanish on TV.
Of Taxi or Fever Pitch?
Taxi.
I actually like Fever Pitch.
I heard Fever Pitch.
That's the one with
Drew Barrymore.
50 First Dates.
Yeah,
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
Yep. It's Jimmy Fallon and Adam Sandler falling in love in a baseball park. Yep.
Jimmy Fallon and Adam Sandler falling in love in a baseball
Well,
park?
because he said 50 First Dates. That's the other half of it. Another sign that a joke works really well is when you have to explain it afterwards. Like, it's when people say it's hilarious and when you explain it. Anyway, the point I was making about Sayonara is, in addition to those sorts of things, I think the most interesting thing of all is when you beat the main story, the thing that really makes it an album to me, you unlock an option to play the entire album in a single run. Like, the level breakup is gone. You have something that's appropriate enough called Album Arcade, and it's a single playthrough, the full hour plus, one high score, one ranking at the end. And in many ways, I kind of suspect that single playthrough is what the developers wanted from the start. Like, when I demoed it back at PAX East in March, I think it was presented that way. I don't think they did the level breaks. And I kind of preferred it. Like, it flowed a lot better. The weird breaks I was talking about where it just abruptly ends were not there. I suspect they put those in because the game's now on Apple Arcade as well. So it's really a portable first game before on Switch you'd be like, oh, you can play it on the go, but it doesn't have to be. But now it's like, oh, you need to be able to take breaks if you're on a bus or something. So I imagine that's what they did. But the thing is, like, having it both ways actually kind of works because, as is the case with any album, there's going to be favorites that people want to hear over and over or jump to. So dividing it track by track, if you will, does help facilitate that idea. And now that I think about it, I guess that makes sense. Actually, now that I think about it, why didn't they do online leaderboards in that case? Because if they're encouraging people to go back and play the same tracks, that's a great opportunity for online leaderboards because you're doing high scores anyway. Anyway, point is, I think the album arcade is key here because it really emphasizes the idea that you're experiencing the whole thing from start to finish, the whole concept of a concept album as you go through it at once. Like, I remember when Linkin Park came out with 1,000 Suns. That's 2 Linkin Park references in one podcast. They claimed that was more of a concept album, take it or leave it. But what they did is they, of course, had individual tracks and singles, and you could, hear those. But they also, if you bought it from their official store, they gave you an MP3 of the entire thing in one MP3 called The Full Experience. What? There were no breaks, no fade-outs, no radio edits, and just one big file. And I thought that was kind of a cool approach, and it's cool to see Sayonara kind of do the same thing and kind of really emphasize, like, oh, it's about the whole experience from start to finish with the music and everything.
1,000 Suns was the start of the decline. Honestly.
Whoa, 1,000 Suns is my favorite. How dare you? 1,000
Suns is where everything started to fall apart.
Nope. That is factually incorrect.
Have you seen the reviews for that album?
Yeah, it's their highest reviewed.
Oh.
So
more than
I think
Hybrid
it's their
Theory?
highest reviewed. It's one of their highest reviewed. Fans were very divided when it first came out, but they eventually came around.
A new divide?
You could say it caused a new divide, even though it predated a new divide. But I appreciate the reference.
1,000 Suns is where the decline started happening.
Nope.
Don't listen to anything this man says.
Nope. I mean, granted, I'm a fanboy, but nope. But anyway, okay. Before we get too lost in the weeds here, the point is, if I told you a 2-hour game cost $13, you might find that unreasonable. I think you already did, based on your face intro when I said, oh, you kind of gave me a look. But most people don't.
I only gave you a look because you immediately assumed I did, and you gave me a look that made me think that I was.
I thought you gave me a look, so I gave you a look. But anyway, whoever's listening that may think that, fine. It may be unreasonable. But what most people don't mind is buying an album that costs $10, at least back in the iTunes days. And this is an album, plus really well-matched slick visuals and gameplay. And just to be super clear, I'm not saying this is a bad game but a good album. I'm saying it's a good game because it's also a good album. So some things that gamers normally look for, may not necessarily be there in spades. There's no multiplayer. Like I said, there's no leaderboards. It's pretty short. But it's incredibly fun while it lasts.
Length isn't always, the best determinant. Of length. Just look at some of the early God of War games. They're 4 or 5 hour games.
Right.
And then you also have, for the same price, a 100+ hour game in an RPG. So
right.
It just depends.
Yeah,
on
it depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, and
I wouldn't want God of War to be hundreds of hours long. I feel like it'd be way.
Yeah, and what's great about this is it provides replayability, which again is why I'm surprised there's no leaderboards, but it provides replayability, which is cool. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the way it all
just
comes.
Do it.
I can't. Literally, I can't. But the way it all comes together at the end.
You coward.
The way it all comes together at the end was probably one of the coolest moments I've had in gaming in a while. I don't know, it just resonated with me. It was really the way it, kind of going back to the album idea. It felt like the crescendo of the performance, everything just all these different things from different parts of it all kind of meshed back together, all the themes and everything. And this is gonna sound incredibly cheesy, incredibly cheesy. I know how cheesy it's gonna sound. I literally had this weird urge, so the game's done, the credits are rolling, and I had this weird urge, do I clap? I was alone in my house, and I was kind of I feel like I should clap. It felt like a performance. I don't know how better to word it. It sounds really weird. I know, but I'm saying it was satisfying. It was really cool. So point is, it's a cool game. It's a cool experience. Can't recommend it enough. Take or leave my hyperbole. You're in for a treat if you check it out. It's really cool. So that is Sayonara. That is Goose Game. That is Zelda. That is all I've been playing. I'm finally going to shut up. So, Angel, I feel like Cuphead, what Sayonara was to me with music, I feel like Cuphead may have been for animation buffs in terms of like combining
not
things.
even close.
Okay, so tell me about Cuphead because I'm way off
I'm
base.
just kidding.
Tell us about Cuphead.
Wow, I mean, Cuphead's been around for a while. I mean, especially the Switch version. I don't remember when it came out. Like, I know I'm late.
April. Sorry.
Oh boy,
April.
No, I mean, it's a really fun game. Like, it just reminds me of Contra. At least, like, Contra 4, because that's the one I played the most. You know, you got your different types of bullets, your spreader, your machine gun. But, I mean, if you don't like difficult games where you're pretty much going to be replaying the same level over and over again until you have everything memorized, or at least close to it, then, like, you're not going to enjoy this game. But if you do, then you like getting a little bit further each time, then you're definitely going to love it. But, I mean, obviously, like, the selling point is the animation and the fact that it's not a game like, I don't know if any of you remember Cell Damage or something like that. It's
Cell
like
Damage. I remember Cell
like,
Damage.
Yeah.
It's not like that kind of game where, like, or, I forgot, thinking of another game, or like Bendy and the Ink Machine where, like, they're trying to replicate, like, oldies cartoons sometimes, but with CG, but, like, it doesn't really work, or, like, you know, there's, like, cell shading, like, sometimes they try to replicate cartoony aesthetics without actually being cartoony, like, you know, you get, like, this whole new thing. But this one, obviously, like, they drew it and animated it traditionally, they colored it digitally, and, I mean, the results are just, like, amazing, like, just how fluid everything is, the creative transformations, the character designs, it's, like, damn.
It actually feels like playing a cartoon.
The boss transformations are, like, always amaze me in that game.
Yeah, like, you could easily be entertained, like, I mean, I was entertained, like, watching my brother play it back when it came out on PC, just, like, watching him, like, play through the game, just because it was just so entertaining to watch the bosses transform, like, oh, what form are they going to take next, and they always go in these crazy, more absurd forms than the last. And I mean, and the characters are just all over the place. I mean, you fight vegetables, you fight, like, a queen in her castle that throws her head at you, and you fight, like, her sweet army. Oh, it's
Sweet isn't cool, or sweet as in, like, literally their candy?
sweets. Yeah, like, there's a candy
Candy,
corn, yeah, like a waffle.
Have you beaten it?
No, I've been in that area where we were.
Oh, that yeah.
But
Is there
Not yet.
any boss that's giving you trouble so far?
I mean, that horse one, like, well, pretty much, like, with,
The horse one.
well, the roller coaster.
The roller
one.
coaster. Yeah, the roller coaster one took me a while
Yeah,
too.
because there's just, like, some attacks that, like, even though you know they're coming, they just come out so fast that they still catch you by surprise. I mean, that's kind of, like, a lot of that game. Like, you could be ready for a lot of things, and you'll still make that one mistake. But I've been trying to get, like, a perfect score before moving on in each one, for the most part. So it's just taking forever. Like, if I get hit, like, I'll just start over, even though, like, I know I could potentially beat it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's going to be so...
To
It just feels
perfect
very...
score some of them, you have to parry. Off
Yeah,
of it,
I have
right?
to do this thing called parrying. Like, while in the air, you have to press the jump button again, and you slap anything that's pink. If it's pink, that means you could parry it, so take no damage, and you block it. And it also gives you another jump. And for each boss, you have to do that at least 3 times. Have built up your full, like, meter where you could do an ultra attack. And you also have to beat it within a certain time limit. And there's always, like, usually, like, one thing that I mess up. It's either I missed the parry, or I took a little too long, or I used up too many of my... I guess as you deal damage, you build up, like, a little meter that's in the form of playing cards, and there's 6 of them. You can build it up to 6. But if you don't let it build up all the way, then you're not letting yourself get that final bonus that you have to have built it up all the way. Pretty much saying you went that long without using your more powerful moves. But, no, the game is awesome. Like, it's cool that it offers, like, co-op multiplayer. There are some...
Have you done it yet? Any co-op?
Yeah, with Kevin. We were playing the...
Oh, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
It does get definitely way more chaotic. Like, I noticed, especially while watching Elvis and Kevin play it, like, on Switch, like, there's just so many projectiles on the screen. Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
Does the game ever bog down from it? Because it was built for more powerful hardware.
no, the frame rate never bogs down. It just, the loading times are significantly
Oh
longer.
boy, the
are
loading
they
time.
that bad?
I was not used to that.
Yeah, you
Usually,
can straight up tell, like, because after I was asking, like, Elvis, like, oh, how do I check this in the game? And he booted up his copy on his computer, and the load times were, like, almost instant. I mean, he also has, like, an SSD. I'm sure that's
Well,
what to
yeah,
do with it,
yeah.
but there was like almost no load time, and then on mine I'm just like, oh yeah, cool. I'm still waiting for the initial like item to boot up, and it takes forever. But I don't know, really fun game. Like there's a reason why like it's super popular and it's like getting merchandise like crazy.
And a Netflix show.
Yeah, and it's getting a show, and now it's on your Tesla too. It's also on Tesla. So.
Yep, that rolled out with Tesla Update 10 or whatever it's called, just the other day.
Yeah, so I don't know when's that DLC coming out, but
it got delayed into next year.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, the Delicious Last Course.
Yeah,
DLC.
I appreciate the name.
Well, with how
That's
long
what I
it's taking
strive
them-
for with my puns and my names.
I mean, I can only imagine it's going to be a pretty like, beefy.
Beefy, yeah.
Ah, good
Plus
word choice,
with,
guys. Cause talk about food. Delicious last course, beefy. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
definitely something to look forward to. That's exciting.
Yeah, I will say from my experience with it,
Like it's
too hard for me.
Yeah,
The whole game.
it's gonna take a while, but like I'll definitely beat it.
There are some bosses in there that legit took me combined. I don't know, maybe about like 6 hours to beat.
Yeah, I don't think I have the patience for that.
Yeah, there's some like that. I remember there was like a giant robot that gave us a lot of
That robot.
Because that one just takes forever to beat. Like it just has a lot of HP.
I think that one just has like 2 forms, but yeah,
it's like on the
I definitely do not have the patience for that.
Yeah, I mean, I love these kinds of games. It's like,
Right.
you know, you're Super Meat Boys, you're the Endless Night, you're Celeste. I mean, they're all like, you inch a little more the more you play,
Right.
but, you know, that's what makes them fun and satisfying. I mean, it's always like, I guess once you get that final gratification that you beat it, like, you see the fireworks go, like, when you
And
beat
then
it.
you too may want
and
to
then you're
burst
like,
into
yes.
applause like me with my Sayonara.
Well,
Except you're applauding yourself because it's your skill.
it's usually
So
not an
it's a-
applause. It's more like,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh,
it's more like a sigh of relief. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to do that again.
Right.
just, yeah, usually just
Unless you want to perfect it, obviously.
yeah,
Which, Angel,
which I
do
will,
you?
but
see, you
There's
will.
there's some cool stuff for perfecting the game.
no, I definitely want to see. Like, I mean, I spoiled some of the stuff for myself just because the game's been out for a while, but I definitely want to play with those filters and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's our filter? Well, spoiler alert. What's our filters?
Like a black and white.
Black-
Oh,
and white
that's
filter.
cool. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Makes the pairing a little bit more harder.
Oh, that's true. Because
it's- yeah, right. That makes sense.
Kick the table, but yeah, Cuphead definitely.
Yeah, I
Definitely
think to
good.
your guys, I feel like we sort of raised the point as we were going that different games for different folks, right? Like that's obviously a thing. So this next game that we're going to talk about, which I think all of us have dabbled in, but Angel's played the most, is definitely niche, extremely niche. But we have a buddy that works down at Circuit of the Americas, and his game is on the box art, and his game's in the game. His track is on the box art, and his track is in the game, and he actually got to be like the point person that facilitated the track being in the game. So he threw a few copies our way, and it's called Truck Racing Championship. And how would you describe it, Angel? Because this is one that most people probably haven't heard a thing
Well,
about.
I mean, just the way we're talking about, like Jason said, niche games. Like this game is straight up only for a particular group of people. Like, if you just because you like Mario Kart doesn't mean you're gonna like this game. In fact, if you try to play it like Mario Kart, you're gonna hate it. But I don't know, for what it is, like it does a good job of being like a truck simulator. Like, I mean, I've played simulation games before, like Gran Turismo and Forza, and I don't particularly enjoy them too much because, like, by instinct, I just never want to let go of the gas. But you have to, and if you don't make the turn just right, you're gonna spin out, and you spin out a ton. On top of that, you also have to keep track of the heat of your tires, so you have to cool them down. And yeah, it's a tough game, really steep learning curve. But like the few moments like where I was able to get one lap without spinning out, it's like a low bar, but I mean that was extremely satisfying. But I heard the Xbox version has online.
yeah, the Switch one doesn't, which
Yeah,
is kind
the-
of surprising.
It's weird. Like, on one hand, it is kind of nice that you don't have, like, you're literally in a bubble. Like, it's a complete single-player experience. There's, like, like a Grand Prix of sorts. You can do the tracks, do your own time trials, but there's, like, no leaderboards, not even with just your friends, like, or
Right.
anything. Like, it's just a very private, personal experience, which...
It's a very private experience.
Yeah, which is weird because like I'm used to some games at the minimum just have like a leaderboard where you can just compare the world and your friends. Even if you can't play with them, you just see like, oh, who's ahead. But this one is like, because it doesn't have that, part of that is kind of nice. It's like, cool. Because if there's a leaderboard, that has, that's worldwide, there's always going to be that time that's going to be impossible to reach because that person either exploited something or they're just that good.
Yeah.
But because of that, your times are always there and yours, and that's kind of cool. But it would have been nice to, at the very least, have a leaderboard with your friends on your friends list.
Yeah, it is strange. And they do, it's funny because they try and cover it up a little. Because like, oh, we have 5 multiplayer modes and 5 single-player modes. Like, but at the end of the day, it's still local only, which isn't, has its advantages.
And visual-wise, it gets the job done. Like, it looks fine. Like, the track looks great.
Yeah.
The only thing is,
it's all super realistic.
It has, it does have an option to turn anti-aliasing on or off, but by default, it doesn't, and everything looks so sharp that it kind of looks a little weird.
I'm assuming it's for performance, like, because the Switch is underpowered, so they're like, hey, if you don't have any anti-aliasing, it runs smoother, I would guess.
Yeah, but it's interesting, but...
And, like, if you're a big truck person...
Yeah, it's like... Yeah, especially... this is like a European thing, apparently, so it's not even that common for here in the US.
I was about to say that. That's actually kind of funny. It's in Europe, there's a whole truck racing league called the FIA, I believe.
I think that's... this is what it's based on, I think.
Yeah, so the game in Europe is marketed as FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And in the US, they're just like, no one knows what half those words mean. Just call it Truck Racing Championship.
Yeah.
But if you're into trucks, though, it has a lot of trucks.
If you're into car racing simulators, then I'm sure, you'll enjoy it.
There's literally 45 trucks.
Just as long as you don't mind not playing online, otherwise you'd get it on a different console. But.
And listen, if you are a truck person and you like those 45 trucks, have I got news for you. We'll explain how later in the show, but we have 2 copies to give away. So, if you like trucks without online play, stay tuned.
Wow.
Stay tuned. No, but actually it is kind of cool that they, they're able to provide us with 2 copies, and for the people out there that like this sort of thing, it does what it needs to do. So stay tuned for that. But anyone else been playing any games? I think we ran through the list.
Started replaying Banjo-Kazooie.
How's that going? And because of Smash, I assume?
No, we've just been wanting to. That did kind of help. It was just more like we realized, our brother-in-law has an Xbox that we could borrow. And it was literally just as easy as asking him, and now we have it here. I did have to buy it because no one had Game Pass, so it was $30 total for Kazooie and Tooie. But yeah, the game is still really hilarious. It was funnier than I remembered.
Isn't the retro replay
Well, that's $20.99. But
but you get both games
and more
and a bunch more.
Like Gemini.
But we're borrowing the Xbox just for those 2, and I figured we have enough games to play as it is. I'm not gonna.
So you're I'm gonna buy fewer games at the same price.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I just...
Okay, that's hard. It's hard to argue with I didn't care.
It's I saw the list of the games, and none of them felt like anything I wanted to play.
What about Jet Force Gemini?
I could care less.
Wow. You mean you couldn't care less? If you
could
could care less, you'd be able to care less.
I could. I don't know. I don't know that much.
Actually, I don't remember much of Jet Force Gemini.
All I know about Jet Force Gemini is just the promo art.
Oh, you've never actually played it?
I don't even know what it plays like.
It's like a
type of game it is. I never bothered to look up what it plays like.
From what I remember, because I only rented it a couple times.
No. Let's keep it. I want to keep it that way.
Oh.
I'll keep it a mystery. If they make
keep it a mystery, you just go Google it. You have your answers.
That's
keep it in a veil.
I want it to be when it gets a remaster, and then it's play it as you've never seen it. Get a Final Fantasy.
Play it like you've never seen it before, and you're like, well, I've never seen it before.
Well, yeah, but Banjo-Kazooie, it's still really funny. Still really tight controls. It's still really fun. It's a better Odyssey, but yeah.
Wow, bold, better Odyssey. It is very similar to Odyssey. Yeah, actually, now thinking about it, the parallels between Mario 64 and Odyssey and Banjo and Odyssey, it definitely is stronger. The Banjo Odyssey connection.
Well, yeah, because the whole thing of Banjo is you don't have to leave the world; it's all there. And then Odyssey's we're gonna put so many moons everywhere. We're gonna try to Donkey Kong Country this thing, and Donkey Kong 64 it.
Yeah.
And I feel like they went overboard. But
right, we've gone through that a few times. But so how's Kazooie versus Tooie so far? Or Tooie versus Kazooie? Or have you only played Kazooie because you're not to Tooie yet? I'm just seeing how many times I say Kazooie and Tooie in a sentence. But...
I'm replaying Kazooie, so I haven't gone to Tooie yet.
Gotcha.
But I just remember from what I've played from Tooie before that the game is just way bigger. I don't know what that necessarily means better, but everything is just there's just way more to explore. So that one probably went the Odyssey route, but I don't know.
Right,
I don't know. Did you ever play Tooie?
No, I never played Tooie. I only ever played Kazooie.
Same, which is weird because Kazooie is one of my all-time favorite N64 games. I never played Tooie.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Kid logic doesn't make sense. Favorite game, I won't play the sequel.
Remember the commercials where Banjo's jumping off the plane and Kazooie's not there and he just falls on the floor?
I don't even remember that.
Because it was just like reading a magazine like by the pool. You remember that?
Nope. Doesn't ring a bell. It sounds right. Sounds in character for them. But
it was just like a
very
guy
on brand.
And it was just like a guy in a costume, so it was, it's not animated, so it's pretty funny.
I have no recollection of that.
But yeah, fun games to revisit.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna remake it pretty soon. Maybe it won't come to Switch, but I feel like Microsoft sees the writing on the wall and is like, we could totally monetize Banjo's boost in attention.
They totally should, but they should make a multi-platform.
That'd be great. I want it on Switch. I just realistically don't think it's gonna come to Switch.
What a shame.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's what we've been playing. See, that was a lot of games. That was nearly an hour of just games we've been playing, which, like, unless there's anything else you've been playing, we could go over an hour.
No.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, but no.
I just haven't had a lot of time recently to play a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we had to delay the episode just to be able to cram in the games we did talk about, so I get that. But, yeah, what's kind of crazy is we ran through, like, a pretty big breadth of games, right?
That's crazy.
Like, we got our, well, let me finish the thought. We got our, first-party AAA release with Zelda. We have a few indies, Goose Game, Sayonara. Essentially a third-party release in Cuphead. A more niche racing sim with Truck Racing Championship. Even Banjo, like a retro game. Although that's not on Switch, so that doesn't really prove my point. But it seems like, overall, healthy lineup. Except there's the other side of the coin here, which is on the week that 3 of those games came out. So Zelda, Goose Game, Sayonara. That week, they're part of 37 new eShop releases on just the eShop press release that Thursday. There's probably others that Nintendo didn't include. I went and counted them all. And if you count up all the ones in September for every press release, there are 133 games on Switch in the last 4 weeks.
That's a lot of games.
Yeah. When you have that many...
Steam numbers, though?
What?
Is it Steam number, though?
No, but Steam's having all sorts of its own problems with discoverability and people falling off and developers losing huge amounts of money because they changed their algorithm to bring up the to like rise through the ranks, bubble up lesser known games, except it's having the opposite effect, is actually suppressing them down further. So a lot of developers are struggling right now. But that's kind of the concern, is when you have that many games, you run into a major issue of discoverability, and I guess algorithms one way. But, for every game that gets a big PR push or attention from a podcast like us, there's about 120, at least on Switch, that didn't. Or to ground it in, like, a real-world example, in 2 weeks' time, Killer Queen Black comes to Switch on the 11th. That is a indie game that got a lot of attention from Nintendo at E3.
I completely forgot about that game.
Exactly. It went off, it disappeared, but now it's coming back, and maybe some remember and some don't. So you have that game that maybe half the audience remembers. Now they're on their own with marketing, it seems. And then a week ago at the Tokyo Game Show, there were 129 other Switch games on display. So it's just kind of like one game has some attention. Those other ones, some do, some don't. Who knows? There's some that probably no one's ever heard of. The dude that made Custom Robo, he had a new Custom Robo-style arena battler game at Tokyo Game Show. I bet no one knows about it or could tell you the name of it because, like, it got buried by all the others. So it's...
Can you self-publish on the Switch?
You can... I think you can. I don't think they...
If you can...
I think you have to incorporate as your own company, but I think you could.
If you can, well, there's the problem.
If you can't or if you can?
If you can.
I think you can, but you need a corporation. So you have to go through the legal hoops. But, I mean, if you make your own corporation, sure. But, yeah, if it was self-published and everyone just throws anything, that'd be bad. Yeah. But it's just interesting because, like, in these past few weeks, not only have we seen all these games and talked about so many games, but a lot of stories have started to come out that paint a picture of just, like, how difficult it is for developers, especially indie ones, to reach an audience, both on Switch and more generally. So on Switch, the thing that's been happening lately that Kotaku just covered is this idea of developers starting to resort to the strategy of offering a super cheap discount on their game. Because, you'll stick it both in the frequently checked great deals section, and more significantly, it boosted up the sales chart. And it does work. I mean, Kotaku had this article, and they were sharing some stats, and it can be successful. There are devs of games like Draw a Stickman, which is like Scribblenauts, but you draw stick figures. And there's another game called A Robot Named Fight, which is kind of a Metroidvania game. Those two saw their sales rise. I believe Draw a Stickman was 1,000 times over, and Robot Named Fight was up 1,500%, just because they went under $1 for a little bit of time. And Membrane, which is a different game, a puzzle platformer, that they experimented with all sorts of different discounts. Only 1% of their sales were at full price. And they had the biggest boost when they dropped it to cost only 9 cents. That is a 99% amount of just games, or just sales from discounts. Like, they had basically zero traction without discounts. And, anecdotally, even like Angel and I, 2 episodes ago, we were talking about Super Beat Sonic. $0.89, $40 game normally, and we totally like bought into this idea that it's super cheap, let's just get it now. And I think what the devs ultimately are counting on is word of mouth will carry the game into some sort of longer tail of sales that goes beyond the length of the discount. And when games do it, it gets the attention of the gaming press. When they do the discount, they get the gaming press on it. There's social media talking about it. There's situations where people will upload Let's Plays to YouTube because they got this super cheap game, or they'll live stream it on Twitch or whatever. I mean, literally, like I said, we covered Sonic only because it was super cheap, and they got some free coverage from us 2 episodes ago. But the risk is that even if you do a deep discount, you're not guaranteeing those later sales. Like, not everyone has a podcast. Although it sure does feel like it these days, am I right? No, but not everyone has a podcast or a YouTube or social media or whatever where they're going to gush about your game. And gushing isn't even guaranteed. I mean, our Sonic impressions, our Super Beat Sonic impressions, I was pretty into it. Angel, the rhythm game guru of the show, had some legit concerns about it. So it's a gamble for these developers to do anything like this. And while I love me a good discount, I just don't see how this is like a healthy approach to discoverability on the eShop, right? Like, am I crazy? This just seems like the race to the bomb's going to be detrimental in the long run.
I mean, we can't have both. It was like the opposite problem on the Wii.
It was. There's a middle ground. There is a middle ground. I don't know what it is.
Was the Wii U the middle ground?
No, the middle ground was the early Switch days when they actually curated a bit more. I feel like. Well, I don't know, because it's like it's good to have. It's just
because it definitely. No, you're right. Because I remember early on the Switch lifespan. I remember being like, oh, cool. Like, I know literally every game on the eShop because I would go every week or every other day and just like look through what's coming up, what was out, and yeah, I think like maybe as of like half a year ago, like I just straight up gave up. It was just too many.
Yeah, it's.
I'll occasionally go in, but for the most part, I'll be looking for a game because of a recommendation. Like, I would have never thought to look up Ultimate Chicken Horse if it wasn't for Kevin.
Right, so word of mouth.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like...
Heave Ho, like that one I randomly ran into, and then...
Right.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about that
one?
Yeah.
Randomly.
No, because I remember seeing it, but I remember, like, passing on it, and then Kevin mentioned it, and I went back to it.
You randomly ran into your words when they came out of your mouth to his ear.
No,
I know, I'm kidding. God
damn it, Jason.
But, yeah, it just feels like you have to rely on that more, like word of mouth and stuff. And that's kind of probably where the idea of doing these ridiculous discounts comes from, because if anything, like...
Remember Atui did that for Mutant Mud's collection?
Yeah,
like
they did.
He just kept putting
like
games on discount.
Yeah, and it's...
Same thing with like Chicken Wiggle, wasn't doing so well, so he kept discounting it.
And like it works. I mean, you're gaming the system, but it works on some level, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, if you do any sort of cheat like this, like ultimately cheaters never prosper. So...
I wouldn't say that.
Well, what I see happening right now, they'll be fine. But what if they do this? Okay, so what happens if other devs start latching on to this idea? So this worked great for Atui for like 3 games. Their 4th game comes out. They sell it at full price. It doesn't do particularly well. They try and do the discount move, but so do 20 other developers. The whole list is flooded at that point. Like, you run into 2 issues, I think. One is they're either going to start burning Switch owners with subpar games available for cheap, and then people are going to get really hesitant and stop falling for it, or only go for ones that already have attention, which defeats the purpose of this. Or 2, the games will all be good, but now it's a race to the bottom. It's who can make the cheapest, and then how do you eventually turn that around? Like, games as a whole will become devalued at that point, because like some games, first-party games,
like it feels like we got past that with the whole like Apple thing. It's like, oh, all the games,
all
games should be $1. If it's more than $1, like, oh, it better be good.
But we didn't get past that. Think about it.
I feel like
look at the free-to-plays. Look at how they have to do a subscription service. They're coming up with other ways around the issue, because you can't sell a $5. Look at Mario Run. If you want to go the Apple.
Or I guess Apple Arcade.
Yeah, Apple Arcade kind of addresses it. But yeah, the thing is, like, some games are going to be fine no matter what. Like, first-party Nintendo games, big indie games like Goose Game, those are going to keep chugging along, I feel like. But if you're a smaller studio, your $8 game... Use the iPhone example. Your $8 game may have been, that makes sense back in the start of this ecosystem, but now it feels overpriced because some other studio has a similar game for 1/8 of the price of what you're charging, and now nobody's going to buy your game unless you meet their price, but at that point you're now competing for the same spot in the same way you could have been competing at $8 a piece. You're now competing at $1 a piece, maybe. So, yeah, I think to your point, Angel, yeah, there are ways they're trying to get around it, like, the subscription services.
But like, if that's the only way that you can make a sale, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I think it's better to have them try and do it. I'm just worrying it's going to have long-term ramifications. That won't help anyone. It's just going to devalue
Well,
stuff.
so I feel like some of it has to deal with the eShop is
a mess.
It's a mess.
Yes, I agree.
Like trying to use the eShop is a mess. Like
I
trying to find a game kind of sucks if there's not a lot of options of how to like search for games on there.
I think that's like a combat.
I'm not looking for like something as robust as like Steam, but like give me something that's just as robust as like we'll say the PlayStation Store.
Yeah. I think there's a lot they could do, honestly. Like really, what they need to do is curate.
They have to curate or start letting user reviews happen.
Or both in tandem,
Or
user
both,
curation
yeah.
and... Because, I mean, there's ways they could bucket stuff that they're not currently doing. Like, they could easily...
This being Nintendo, I never see user reviews happening.
Probably not.
Like, ever.
Probably not.
Didn't
Especially
they
because
try?
they did, and review bombs happened, and they pulled it off the site.
Yeah, on the 3DS, right?
But,
It was just a
it
Star
was on
system,
Nintendo.com, too, for a while. But,
that's right.
Like, they kind of already do the bare minimum of curating. They have that news channel that highlights stuff on a given week on the Switch, and it's actually really well placed because it's like smack in the middle of the Switch. Like you boot up your Switch, it's on the lock screen, it's right there. But the problem is there's so many things now, so many news stories, so many different channels you could subscribe to that it's burying itself. So I think one thing they could do that'd be really great is if they made those news recommendations in the eShop as like a curated section, like almost like playlists on Spotify or Apple Music or something, where they have their algorithmic ones, your new release Friday or whatever, but they also have like on Spotify Rap Caviar, or on Apple Music they have the A list, and those are editor curated. They choose what they think the next big thing will be. They tell you, and that could help. But also, like, I don't know why they don't just have buckets. Like, kind of going with the Spotify Apple example again. You go on Spotify, you go on Apple Music, there's playlists by editors, playlists by genre, but then they have like ones based on mood or activity you want to do. I don't know why Nintendo doesn't do that for categories on the eShop for, say, like retro games. Or, maybe they do something like games from the 90s or games from the 2000s, and they should probably start doing that because retro games is already too big of a bucket. I recently saw that Hamster, the guys that put out the arcade archives, they won a Guinness World Record for releasing 133 consecutive weeks of games.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then they proceeded to announce 8 more. So you are going to need, even in retro, to probably divide it up. But you can divide it up by, like, decade or system or IP. You basically make a virtual console that you pay per game. Or, like, kind of along the same line, why not highlight publishers in a more direct way? Like, you can click their name and see their other games, but I don't know why they don't do something like the Disney Plus approach, where they have by brand. So you open Disney Plus when it comes out in November, and it's like Star Wars, Nat Geo, Marvel, They could do that with some of their bigger publishers, like have a Capcom one, have a Bandai Namco one. I mean, Bandai Namco is apparently about to reboot Klonoa and Mr. Driller and all these other games.
Excuse me?
Yes, they have trademarked Klonoa Encore, Mr. Driller Encore, and a few others. And the theory is they're going to do like either remakes or just like quick and dirty ports like Capcom does. Those seem like they'd be great in a Namco section on the eShop.
It's a shame that Klonoa 2 has not been re-released. I love Klonoa 2.
Maybe it'll be bundled in with Klonoa 1 and Encore.
Veil of Dreams, I think, was the subtitle for
So
Klonoa
what is the hook with Klonoa? Because I have heard very good things, but I've never actually played it. Like, what's the...
I
know it's good platforming.
Kirby 64, right? It's like a 2D platformer, but like it kind of goes in and out.
2.5D.
Excuse you.
That's what I said, like Kirby 64.
Yeah, 2.5D. But yeah, like, what is it? Just really well made? Is there anything particular hook to it?
I think it's well made. I had a lot of fun with it when I was a kid, and some of those levels got hard. But I definitely would retry that. I didn't play that Klonoa remake on the Wii. Was it on the Wii?
It was on Wii,
right? Yeah, I didn't play that one. Which I would assume Klonoa Encore would be that game.
Well, it's kind of like how Banana Blitz HD is the Wii one, because that's one that sold the best, so they bring it back again. Or like, here's another one that's getting rebooted. House of the Dead 1 and 2 coming to Switch.
Oh, yeah.
It's rumored, it came out of a Polish press release that got leaked early, but it's a Polish developer doing it for Sega. But again, like, Sega could have a section, throw Monkey Ball in there, throw House of the Dead in there. Like, it just seems like there's so many ways to do this. I don't know. But it's... Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think Angel, you raised a good point about like subscription services and stuff, and it's kind of I don't think Nintendo's gonna go that route necessarily. I mean, they sort of are Mario Kart, but I don't think they're gonna go fully. Like,
I mean, it's not what they're doing with their.
I don't think they're gonna put all their games behind
their
it,
retro stuff.
Lunatee's Veil. I got the subtitle wrong.
Oh,
no.
The PS2.
But
Yeah. Do you remember this cover art?
Turn around.
This is a badass cover art.
I remember that. Yep. For those who are wondering what we're
from a
looking
TV
at,
show.
it's exactly what it sounds like, the cover art of Klonoa 2. But yeah, I do remember that cover art.
91 on Metacritic. That's a great game.
Whoa.
There you go. The critics have spoken. But yeah, I think it's a weird time to be a dev, honestly, because you got like Switch being like Steam being like mobile, where it's like, how do you get any attention? And, you know, it's a problem even Nintendo's susceptible to, as I'm sure we'll discuss at great length when we talk about Mario Kart Tour in a few minutes. But the overarching issue is now something that Apple and to a lesser extent Google are trying to counteract with these subscription services they're doing. Because if people feel they're being overwhelmed by bad in-app purchase schemes or scamming in-app ads, or like the kind of like every game is free to play but has like a million hooks that you need to do, they're not going to keep downloading and playing these games necessarily. People will get fed up, and I think there must be some metrics showing Apple and Google that this is a problem. They're going to start losing revenue, which is why I think we're suddenly seeing stuff like Apple Arcade and Google Play Pass, because it's just another approach to the same goal of how do you get people to discover new games. And even those have their own issues. The biggest is that the new Google Play Pass, I don't know if you guys have read up on this at all, but Google Play Pass is paying out entirely based on engagement time, which is a horrible metric. I mean, not just game against game. They're going to pay out a game against, like, how long you spend in a weather app. So if someone's in a weather app a lot, that game's going to get less than the weather app gets. It's kind of dumb. So, like, the concern is, if we had a race to bomb on mobile with stuff like free-to-play, if we have a race to bomb with deep discounts on Switch, imagine that on steroids with a subscription service where they pay based on engagement. Because that's just, like...
That sounds like what you don't want to do for games.
Yeah, because like they're got to...
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Go on.
So your situation...
talking Google specifically right now.
Google,
Apple's
okay,
doing it a little different.
Yeah, Google's...
Yeah, strictly based on engagement. So
how's Apple doing it?
So Apple's taking on a bit of a publisher role.
That's true. What are they doing?
So Apple's being really wishy-washy. At first they said they're doing engagement too. And then they sort of backed off that. And now what apparently they're doing... They haven't outright said, and by contract, no one's allowed to say it, but it seems like what they're doing, at least in part, is they're treating themselves like an actual publisher, which means they pay for games up front, they fund the development of the game in part, they help with distribution, obviously getting into the arcade, and then they do an active rev share throughout the whole process. So I'm sure some of that might be engagement, which is still not great, because, I mean, Google has it way worse, but it sounds like they're actually, like, what Google's doing is you just get the exact same games and apps, they're just plucking out the ads from it. Like, literally, where there's an ad, there will no longer be an ad, and that's it. But Apple's actually, like, funding new games and exclusive experiences for arcade and basically treating it like it's their platform as a publisher. Or it's their, you know, their suite of games or whatever. So it's potentially better. But even that, like, even if they do somewhat based on engagement, I feel like it still runs the risk that Google has, which is that's not going to stop the psychological trick. It's only going to make it worse. Because if you're competing against, you know, other games for people's time, you're going to want people to be hooked on your games. That means you do all the games as service stuff. That means no short narrative games. That means nothing like Goose Game or Sayonara.
That's where I disagree.
Okay, yeah.
If a short narrative game, if the game lasts 2 hours and you're just looking for something that's 2 hours, there are a lot of people out there that don't have time for these games as a service games. There are a lot of people that there's the what was that one game, Florence, I think.
I don't know where you're going with this. That is a game.
Florence on
or like Gris
on,
maybe
on iOS or
that
Gris.
RC story driven.
Yeah, like a ton of people played that game.
Oh, I think there's still a market. I think it's just going to shrink exponentially.
I don't think so.
I
don't think
That's
so.
fair.
I don't think so at all.
I'm starting to come around to that just because, like, if I know a game is shorter, like, or something that I could, like, kind of like Sayonara, how, like, I feel like more people, like, especially the average consumer, will actually play through all of that, whereas, like, if it was, like, a more open-ended game, they might, I feel like most of them would probably stop before the first hour. Like, you might get your satisfaction and just move on to the next game, especially because there are that many games.
Exactly. So, you're a developer. You have X amount of money to make a game, right? And you want maximum return on investment, right? You have players who, as you point out, I have 45 minutes. I will play your game for 45 minutes. Meanwhile, one game genre over, you can get people hooked with stupid psychological things and have them be addicted like you are to Brawl Stars or to Hearthstone or whatever. I'm using addiction loosely. Obviously, you're not really addicted. But, you can do something. You can make a game like that. You could get a lot more money. Because if they're paying based on time that people play, even if everyone's like, yeah, I'll play 45 minutes, that's a finite 45 minutes versus potentially an infinite.
But there you're also competing with a bunch of other games that are doing that.
Yeah.
While the narrative-driven games, there's a handful of them.
That's why I think it will still exist, but shrink.
I feel like narrative-driven games are going to be okay. I feel like if anything, they're probably the only other ones besides the quote-unquote addictive gameplay ones that will be fine.
Well, that's the only two there are. There's either the multiplayer or the narrative single player.
Then what do you call The Floor is Lava?
Isn't it multiplayer?
I don't know. It just looks like you're just...
Oh, I don't know. That's just a single player game. Okay, never
player.
mind narrative. Let's take the word narrative out. Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, that's because I'm specifically calling on narrative because it's kind of like watching a movie. Like, you want to see it through. Yeah. Like, you have more incentive, whereas, like, all right, I played the first 2 levels. Like, I get the gist of the game. Let's see what else is on.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe narrative will live on in some
that's
capacity. But there's something in the middle there that's not a finite experience and that's not
obviously
full multiplayer that's going to fall away. But it has to. Why would you as a developer? Why would you as a business?
I mean, if anything, like for those like addictive multiplayer ones, like if anything, it sucks more for them just because like the ones that the ones that get picked off as like the popular ones, like those are going to skyrocket. But then for every one that gets picked up as like the super popular one, there's going to be like hundreds that will probably never even get touched.
Which is true now.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I guess it's the worst version of what's already happening.
So the reason I was saying this is if you look at music in the world of streaming, it has dramatically changed. In subtle ways, but pretty significant ways. So songs are shorter now. An average song coming out today, especially in hip-hop, is like 2 minutes instead of 3+. What they do, and I was watching this interview with Charlie XCX, who actually is a songwriter for a bunch of other people, which I had no idea about. But she was saying that, so you make a shorter song, you put the hook in the first 30 seconds, you take out all the intros, all the instrumentals, you just do the song and move on, because music, they pay in terms of engagement and plays. So in those situations, you want to get someone hooked to the song right away before they have ADD and click somewhere else. And then you want to keep them there, and then you want to make it be stuck in their head. So you make it short, sweet, and very repetitive, and then you pump that out. Simultaneously, when you have an album, you want to put as many of those short songs as you can because you are paid per play. So if you have a 28-song album, that's, double the pay as if you have a 14-song album. And the thinking is, if they're short and sweet, boom, 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 people just make their way through the album. And that's why so many, especially in hip-hop, albums are super bloated now because they're trying to chase down that extra engagement money. And that's why it's kind of like, oh, well, if music can change that much. Like, music has always adapted to the format. Like, the reason a single is 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes is because that used to be what would fit on the record back in the day. But it kind of stabilized and just became a thing where that's just what it is. So now it's just evolving to the new format. But I'm kind of like, all right, if that happened to music, and it happened pretty quick. I mean, Spotify, that's in the last 8 years, let's say. Apple Music's even less. I don't know necessarily if maybe gaming, maybe it's not a narrative game that changes. Maybe it's a gas game that changes. Maybe it's something in between. But, like, there's no way that completely changing how you track games from being like you buy a finished product, you go see a movie and you pay a set price regardless of length, to being like, it's like how many minutes of this TV show did you watch? We'll pay based on that. Like, that's going to dramatically change things in some capacity.
I can't imagine what that would be like for movies. Like, if it was literally based on...
Because that's essentially what
like animated films would be shortchanged a ton just because
and that's exactly and they're exactly
it's usually more expensive and more work.
And that's exactly my point about games. Like, there will still be always some anime movies, and there will still always be some games that are narrative. But why, if you're a small developer, would you not go for maximum money unless you really have a vision that's significantly financially backed? Like, if you're a struggling guy that just needs to make some money, and then maybe once you're established, you can go make the game you want, but you first have to start with the one that's going to make you money. Because unfortunately, while games aren't art, they're also a business, and it's kind of like movies and music and all of them. It's that weird balance between the two. So I don't know what the subscription services are going to mean necessarily, but I feel like the race to the bottom that happened on mobile that we're sort of seeing on Switch, if they don't figure out curation, like you were saying, kind of in terms of like new categories and better ways to sort things, like, it's not that far of a jump to get into the same sort of headache that mobile has and all that. So we'll see. And it's not to say like even the current structures work well, because they don't. Like, if you're a developer, you still need a publisher. You can incorporate, like we were talking about before, but often you have to go find someone. And not all but have the best intentions in mind for their developers. Some just want money. But But the problem is there are some publishers that we thought were pretty good guys, and then it turns out they're not. Case in point, this whole Nicalis controversy that bubbled up recently.
That's how you pronounce it?
I think so.
I always say Nicalis.
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought of it. I would say Nicalis.
Well,
I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Given
Yeah, I
their
don't know. I don't know if it's right or
current
wrong.
state, I don't care what they're called anymore because they're bad people. No, but it really like
Hey, don't throw everyone in
no,
Nicalis under the bus.
it's top down. It's so basically.
I mean, it's a lot of the employees that are the ones that are.
No, yeah. When I say they, I should.
No, I know.
The
So
royal we of the company.
it mainly centers around.
It's always the royal we with you.
Yeah.
It's always the royal we with you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the name. The royal we came up with this episode's title.
Now, to be fair, I backed off that based on your feedback, and then you went and praised Angel.
Because that is a good title.
It is a good title.
Yeah, so
It's a
this
very good
controversy kind of stems from an article from Kotaku about Tyrone Rodriguez. He's like he's the big boss of
Yeah.
Nicalis. I don't know if he's still there.
He's there.
I don't really.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because, like, I mean, for a while, like, I mainly started following him on Twitter because he has this relationship with Edmund McMillan because they teamed up a lot on The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Like, after it became a Flash game, they went 16-bit. Like, all of a sudden, like, he would just became really active on Twitter, and I would follow him just to get updates on that game. And then one day he just kind of tweeted out this...
Random apology.
Yeah, this apology, like, without any context, and then, obviously, the comment section had the context, and...
The context ain't great.
Yeah, pretty much, like... as Jason mentioned, like ghosting, like
Well, there.
that one. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, that's like just one of them. Like he, Enter the Gungeon developers. Like he told them he would help them out with the game. He said they would get in contact with them. That he would make the port for I forgot what console, and
Switch.
and he just never got back to them. Like literally, just no contact whatsoever. And they were pretty much like, okay, are we gonna get the port done? Like, I mean, time is money, and we need to do something. So they ended up just hiring someone else, and like, yeah.
Same thing happened to Fury. That boss rush game that came out in January of last year. They lost months of potential sales because Tyrone and Nicalis were just like, hey, we'll make your game for you, and then just ghosted them.
Yeah.
And like that's not like
I know that's not even like
it's
the worst of it.
Well, I was gonna say even in the developer
this is
relations,
unprofessional.
Yeah, but in the developer relations bubble, it got worse too because like.
I mean, McMillan already cut ties with them. Like Bumble is not partnered with Nicalis. Like that's just.
But never mind the games that they didn't work on because you could argue, it wasn't in their business interest and they didn't sign a contract. And if they did, like they never made.
I mean, it was
worse for games they have already. So, Wonder Boy and Save Me, Mr. Takeo and Cave Story, I guess those games, the first two at least, had patches that needed to come out. The developers made the patches, and then Nicalis just never released the patches. So they're literally not just affecting the developer and the quality of their game and how it's reviewed by people.
Because they have a lot of properties under their belt.
Yeah.
Like they kind of make their own games, and they also just publish a ton. Like they got I mean, just look at like their last like the Crystal Crisis and the other fighting game. Like
I'm still harping on the DLC thing or the patching. So that drives me crazy because it's not just like they're screwing over the developer by not having their game be optimized. They're also screwing over the customer who bought the game because there was a patch. People identified issues. The developer's like, we know. Here's a fix, and Nicalis is just like, nah, we're good, which is weird. And then this past week, the developers of It'll Do 2 were caught off guard because Nicalis yanked their game from the eShop without warning, which Nicalis claimed the contract expired for them publishing it, and the rights were turned back to the developer. But according to Nicalis, Nintendo, the eShop, they don't allow it to change publishers or listing. I don't know if that's true or not. Let's say it is. But either way, like, why would they not work with the developer before the contract expired to be like,
give
hey,
them a heads up. This is gonna happen.
Like, why would I
don't lose some money?
Like, why would I trust the Nicalis explanation of event story? The reasoning if they have a history of ghosting and they literally ghosted them because they didn't renew the contract.
Yeah, that really sucks.
Yeah, and then of course there's also just like
the interpersonal stuff, like forcing people pressuring people like to drink while at work. And
the employee abuse is
bad.
Is terrible.
The worst of the bunch, I think, is there's a story that he took him to Japan for a trip, or they're going to Japan for a trip. He's like, okay, I'll pay for your airfare if you drink this concoction of raw egg, soy sauce, and beer. And here's the thing. He runs the company. He's the one that decides who gets their expense reports paid. He's the HR department. He is the HR department. So when he says, I'll pay for it when you drink that, that's not really like a, ha ha ha, it'll be funny, I'll pay for it out of pocket. He means like the company will pay for it only if you drink that, which is really bad. And like he wouldn't let people go like the doctor's office during crunch, even if they had like a reason to.
Yeah,
and,
a lot of people were just like that was kind of like their first job, so like they couldn't really, afford to mess up. And it kind of sucks like to have that kind of experience starting out. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the sausage party situation where like a lot of like first
referring to the movie just before I get to good ideas.
Just like a lot of starting animators that was like their first gig, but because of the whole overtime thing and the way they didn't get paid, and they were apparently like threatened that if they leave they will get blacklisted, and the animation communities and industry is very small, which would really mess them up. So it sounds, I mean, it was pretty much a similar situation.
Yeah. The thing that sucks about Nicalis is like it hit particularly close to home for Nintendo fans because like they're a huge name on the Nintendo scene.
Yeah,
like I feel like
Spikes and Cave Story. I mean, I love Cave Story, but I mean that was also like I played that before it was even associated with Nicalis, and then they got it up and got me like a 3D and pretty much merchandise the heck out of it.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
out of it. Yeah.
I don't even necessarily mean just like in terms of which games they have, but they kind of became at one point like the de facto middleman for indies to get their games on Nintendo platforms. Like Nintendo would work with some, but if you didn't have Nintendo in like their attention, you could go into Nicalis and have them do it. Like to the point where in the Kotaku piece, one of the employees was saying, yeah, Nicalis was one of, if not the first outside developer company, one of, not the first, outside developers to receive a Switch dev kit because Nintendo knew they were kind of the bridge between indies and them. And now you hear all these stories about how they're burning indies, and it just sucks. So hopefully something changes. I don't know, but
well, I mean, the spotlight was on them, so
yeah. But and really, just in general, hopefully this game discovery thing across all fronts gets better. Because like, if you don't have someone like Nicalis to help you, and you don't have the means to do the Race to the Bomb, and you don't want to do the free-to-play model, and you like, there's so many games and so little time.
You could just make a 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Yeah, there you go. Just do that and then wear them out. But speaking of not 10 out of 10 masterpieces, there's one final piece of this puzzle we were talking about mobile to talk about, which is Mario Kart Tour came out. And
oh, this crap.
Hoo boy, yeah. All the issues that mobile gaming has created, everything we've talked about, race to the bottom, mechanics like gotchas, the in-your-face monetization, it is here in force. Like Mario Kart, it is weird that this is the same Nintendo who 3 years ago was like, we won't do these things, and now they're like so doing these things. So, but first, like, what do you think of the actual gameplay? Like, I'd say show of hands, but no one can see us. Who's actually played it so far?
I've played it a lot.
Okay, I played it a little. What about you, Kevin?
I played like one race.
Okay. So, what do you guys think
I
of...
played at least like 3 or 4 hours.
So, Angel, what do you think gameplay-wise? Ignoring the monetization stuff, just pure gameplay. How is it, in your opinion, since you put the most time into it?
Once you get used to it, I mean, I started to have fun with it. Like, I enjoy the game enough now. Like, it's pretty much like you figure out the controls, and then before you know, you're like power drifting and sliding and like busting out maneuvers, and you're like, all right, cool, this is cool. And this is like the right amount of... It's difficult enough to make it challenging, but also easy enough that it's not super frustrating either. Like, I don't really blame the controls for any races that I lost. It's still, you can still get Mario Karted like before.
Right.
It's just everything else around that kind of like sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I do think
even like the track variety. There's like, after a few cuts, I was like, oh, cool. Like, it was nice seeing this track again. I haven't seen Daisy Hills in like forever. And then you do Daisy Hills again in another cup, and then you do Daisy Hills again in another cup. Except this time they added like a ramp on top of the road.
Ooh.
Like, I mean, some alterations are more interesting than others, but you could tell like they put very little effort. You could tell all the effort went into those new stages, which
aren't even that great.
Like, aesthetically, sure, like there's some pretty stuff, but like as far as the track, like they're just really boring. Like, but then again, like the way the game is designed to play, they kind of
have to be.
All
the tracks have to be really wide.
Really wide, and you can't even fall off. It's like you have auto steer pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really fall off the edge unless you have a mushroom and you intentionally try to fall off. Otherwise, it's just gonna put you back on the right course.
I do think, to your point about how the tracks are, I do think that the tour structure is kind of an interesting, cool idea. The idea that every 2 weeks they're going to rotate in different tracks. Now, I wish they weren't as repetitive, but I do like the fact that, you know, there is a rotation to tracks. It's very much like Splatoon and how it's rotations. Like, it's kind of cool. I just wish they did more with the tracks.
Because it gets kind of repetitive. I mean, like, I'll say it's fun.
Yeah.
But it gets repetitive, and it feels like the game thinks it's like the most... It's like the best thing ever. That it's like, oh man, people are gonna be playing this for so long. That like, oh, here's like buy this and buy that. But it's like, I feel like I'm already starting to Like,
Yeah.
I'm already getting to that point where I'm like, all right, I'm kind of satisfied with it, and I'm probably never going to touch it again.
And I think
I'm almost there.
I think part of the idea of the 2-week rotation is hopefully you won't get there, but the tracks are all kind of samey. And the thing that kind of bothers me is, like, I get why they did the real world thing, but, like, honestly, New Donk would have been cooler than New York City. I'm just saying, like, it would have been. I do think, though, because they're doing the real world stuff, those adorable little videos of toads building the tracks in each city are great. The ones they put on YouTube. But, like, I just feel like it's not. Like, I wish they did the Mario Kart Arcade GP approach with the tracks. They did tracks kind of based on real world places, but they're still fantastical. And I kind of wish they did that here. But to your point about, like, there's not enough to keep you going, there's a few things in there I do like that they do. There's a ranking system, a weekly ranking system, which theoretically, if you enjoy the tracks enough, which is the problem, would keep you engaged because you get in-game currency and stuff depending on how you rank. And on top of that, while they don't have online yet, they do have your friends list double as a leaderboard. So you could get competitive should you and your friends be all about those same 4 really wide tracks or whatever. But, like, there's like seeds of good ideas, and then just a ton of things that are super questionable that make you wonder why is it like this.
Like, I really like the gameplay, and the visuals are really pretty for what
great.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, but, like, I really don't like that. It's like, I mean, this is why they have the model that they have, but it's like, oh, here's fine, let's go back to Daisy Hills. Oh, do you have Daisy? Did you happen to get Daisy? Well, if you did, now every time you get an item, you get 3 items. And did you happen to get this car? Oh, then now you get, like, double the boost. So if you do happen to have those, which I did, because I only have, like, Daisy, Peach, and Baby Daisy, you pretty much, like, on my first attempt, like, you'll beat it, and then you'll get, like, your 5 grand stars or whatever. But then I got to the Bowser's Castle, and I had nothing that would give me any kind of boost. And even though I still got first place, I didn't even, like, max out the amount of points just because I didn't have enough multipliers to get me across, which
dumb.
It's kind of frustrating. Like, I had to redo that race a couple times so that my experience would build up.
Yeah.
So that I would be able to get a higher multiplier, and then I was able to beat it. But that just felt like, both cheap.
Yeah, I like the whole gotcha element. Like, I do like the fact that they brought back character-specific items and abilities. That was kind of cool in Double Dash. It's nice how it, like,
giant Bowser show again.
Yeah, and it's nice how it, like, separates it from other Mario Karts a little. But I wish there weren't track-specific bonuses like you're talking about with specific characters, because it's just like it's so the gotcha's so nuts in this. I mean, some of the gotcha rates are as low as 0.3%. I somehow lucked out. I got Dry Bowser in my first, like, roll. My initial one when I booted up the game was Toad, who's 1%, so even he's apparently kind of rare. But then I got Dry Bowser, so I'm doing okay in terms of, like, the luck. But, like, ultimately you're limited to either using in-game funds or real money to get the character to max out your meter like you're talking about, and that is straight up pay to win. I don't care how Nintendo wants to sugarcoat it. That is pay to win, and they promised us they weren't going to do that.
I was excited when I saw that they had a 200cc option until...
So, can we talk about the monetization? Because ultimately, I think my biggest problem is... Actually, before we get to that, question for you, Kevin. Why only one race? Was it the controls?
No, my little sister had it loaded up in her phone. I was like, let me try that.
Yeah.
Because I had read into the monetization stuff. And I was like, I'm not even going to bother touching this.
Yeah, we'll get to monetization in a second. Before we even get there, I do want to...
Part of the reason why it's the most downloaded game initially? I got like that, right?
Yeah, 20 million downloads. That makes it the fastest single-day download, most downloaded game. Higher than Pokemon Go, higher than Mario Run. Across any company, I should say. It's not just...
Did you say Mario Run?
Mario Run.
No, it didn't sound like you said Hun. It sounded like you said Hun.
Oh, yeah,
it didn't sound
Mario's
like
my boo. Yeah,
right,
no, Mario...
133.
Okay, we'll check. But, yeah, like, before we even get to that, before you can even care about monetization, you have to figure out how to control the game. And the thing I don't get is, you're right, you can learn it. I learned it eventually. But how is it that a game that's designed to be the entry point into Mario Kart, somehow, for people who haven't played it, I don't know they exist, is the most convoluted, backwards way to play Mario Kart?
Yeah,
like
the controls could have been simplified so much more while still having the same amount of depth.
Yeah,
like instead of just having you always automatically drift, just let you have a normal steering. Just left and right will give you the same amount of nice control that Mario Kart gives you,
and then have a drift button.
And just have a jump button.
Yeah,
that lets you drift
or
like normal,
you
and that's it.
Do normal gyro controls, not to like semi-assist.
Keep the normal accelerated. Otherwise, you're gonna have to like kind of like swipe just to kind of turn, and then it gets kind of annoying.
And like
you have to use your other finger to tap because you definitely don't want your items to automatically go, because why would you want to waste your shield of a shell?
It was bad enough that Nintendo actually had to tweet out, "Hey, did you know there's control options? Here's how to find them." Like, all their tweets are like, "Check out this item, check out this character," and then they're like, "Oh, also controls are over here." So like they must know. But like how you launch a Mario Kart game with like harder controls than regular Mario Kart. How you launch a Mario Kart game with 0 multiplayer. They fake out the multiplayer. If you go play it and you're in a race, they have names above every single character in Japanese, in Italian, in English, in Spanish. None of them are real except you.
Yeah, you could lock your phone and then do something for like 10 minutes and come back and it'll still be in the same spot.
Yeah, and Nintendo has said there's no multiplayer, but they're giving the appearance there is, so a bunch of people are being duped into thinking they're playing random people online.
There,
they will add multiplayer, and it will be gated, but... Well, actually, they're not promising multiplayer will be gated. That's an assumption we're making.
No,
they will add multiplayer.
Like, you try to click on it and it says this option is not available right now.
No, but I mean paywall gated.
Oh, no, I just meant literally.
It's not ready yet. But like, how do you launch Mario Kart on multiplayer? And then like... There's all sorts of weird other little things. I'm kind of like, what are you doing, Nintendo? Like, so let's say you're playing and you want to adjust your controls because you don't like how it's controlling. So you want to go to settings. So you press settings. The race keeps going. The pause menu doesn't actually pause it. Like, who is this like baby's first game? Like, how do you not have a pause menu that pauses it?
What is this? What's the game that doesn't pause? Dead Space?
What is this? Zombie U?
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. Yeah.
I got Bowser!
Is this congratulations? And somehow your Google went off about it too. But
this game is a 10 out of 10.
Well, that changes everything. But no, it's like
shut up, Google.
But it's just like I don't understand how they made such seemingly obvious choices wrong. Like it does, and then that brings us back to monetization because like ultimately, the biggest problem I don't think is even just Mario Kart Tour, but like really all Nintendo's mobile games at this point. Because like while Nintendo's own devices still have great value in their games for the most part. Okay, maybe Link's Awakening could be 40 instead of 60 to your guys' point earlier. But like their mobile outings have slid so far away from the company's old beliefs and what they previously what they told us and all that. It's like I know we as consumers failed the litmus test with Super Mario Run. I get that. We didn't buy it in enough droves for $10 to make this happen. But it doesn't mean every
I enjoyed that game.
other. Me too. But it does, and actually it got a boost thanks to Mario Kart. It was number 2 on the most downloaded list because I think people were confused. I don't know. Apparently it made over 200,000 more downloads in the day that Mario Kart came out.
But how many of those were final sales?
Oh, probably 0.
Yeah.
But I get not everyone's going to pay $10. Those are probably 0. But that doesn't mean every other Nintendo release on mobile has to have the exact same stupid structure of randomized character grants you special things in whatever gameplay scenario we put them into. Like Mario Kart was never about that. It didn't have to be about that. They could have charged for cosmetic things. That works for Fortnite. They could have charged for different carts that you pay with different stats, but they're balanced so it's all equal. They chose not to. You could buy track packs maybe. They could have done anything, and yet they did the gacha. Like weirdly enough,
yeah, this legit sucks. Jesus Christ. They dropped the ball so hard with this game, and it's such an easy win.
I know. It doesn't make sense. Like, it has the most downloads, but that means nothing if everyone's uninstalling it or not understanding controls or not paying. Like, weirdly enough, the $5 per month gold pass they snuck into the final release actually gives me hope compared to the other stuff. Because on the surface, it seems pretty lame. You pay to get some extra items, you get access to 200cc speed. That should not be a pay thing. And it's a recurring payment at that, which is weird. And it's all for the same price as what 70 games on the Apple Arcade costs. Like, it doesn't make the Apple Arcade. I sound old. But my point is, like, it's not a good value, it seems. But I was thinking about it, and if Nintendo were to just slowly migrate a lot of their mobile games' paid aspects behind a single subscription, I'd kind of be on board with it if it means they take out some of the gacha stuff. Like, phase out the gachas, offer new modes exclusive to subscribers, maybe even paywall Mario Kart's proper multiplayer behind this Gold Pass thing. And then for like $5 a month, if you have it across all their mobile games and all of them don't have stupid gacha, it's a better value.
So essentially, you're saying a $5 subscription pass across
Nintendo's mobile games.
I'd be fine with that.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Yeah,
across per game.
No, across them.
The thing is that they have too many mobile games now to like finally integrate that. Like
yeah,
Fire
they have to
Emblem
retroactively do it somehow, which is impossible.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's a pipe dream. And you know how I know it's a pipe dream? Because Sony, the same week as Mario Kart, released a Lemmings game for iOS, which has a $6 subscription that does the same nothingness as the $5 Mario Kart one. So if Sony thinks they can get away with $6 and Nintendo's getting away with $5, there's no way they're doing it across games. But if they were to do that across games, I think that would be a much better approach than the stupid gacha stuff. And it kind of is like meeting in the middle with how what they want Mario Run to achieve but couldn't. So I don't know. I think what frustrates me most about the gotchas in general is that it just feels very much like Nintendo has decided here's our monetization strategy first, and it's one we're going to see in every game we ever do, and then we'll figure out the gameplay around it second, which is backwards from anything Nintendo has ever described their process as being. Like, it feels like such a money grab. I mean, with Mario Kart, it's like, how would racing make sense with gacha? With Dr. Mario last month, it was, how does a puzzle game make sense with gacha? And, before that, Animal Crossing, Dragalia, Fire Emblem, like, it's all the same thing. And I guess we should have seen it coming, because their current Nintendo, the current president of Nintendo, Shintaro Furukawa, he said he doesn't want mobile games to just be a marketing tool. He wants to make them $1 billion pillar in the same way their other stuff is. So we really should have seen this coming. Like, he straight up told us this is going to happen. And to be fair, like, in some cases, gacha kind of works. Fire Emblem was fine. Like, Animal Crossing, it's for items and stuff. It almost makes sense. But I feel like the further they go into non-traditional genres with this stuff, the more shoehorned it becomes, and the more that, like, a gold pass across other games just feels like the only right answer at this point. I don't know. Because, like, frankly, in Tor's current form, like, two questions I kept asking myself when playing it were, one, why am I playing this instead of a normal Mario Kart? And two, would I even be playing this if it didn't have the Mario Kart name on it? And I don't think I would be. Like, with Dr. Mario World a couple months back, I at least found the core puzzle mechanics enjoyable enough. They're different from Dr. Mario, but they had their own appeal.
I definitely would not be touching this, to tell you that.
Yeah, but with Tor, it's just like, this is just not... Like, it can be fun and whatnot once you get past the hurdles, but I wouldn't say it's accessible in the way that, like, Dr. Mario was. It doesn't really achieve what Nintendo's other goal is, and it's not very fun. Like, it's just, I don't know. The monetization just hits so hard and so frequent. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's ironic because, like, between the two games, Tor is the one that's having the runaway download success. Dr. Mario World actually had the weakest opening of any Nintendo mobile release thus far. We're talking to the tune of, like, $1.4 million made in its first month, versus Animal Crossing.
No.
No, well,
1.4
no.
million.
Listen to the difference here. Animal Crossing made 13 million. I know. Yeah, Animal Crossing made 13 million. Dragalia made 26 million. Mario Run at the $10 price made 30 million in its first month.
Dragalia lost?
Yeah, is at 26 million in its first month. Fire Emblem 67, nearly 68 million in its first month. So, like, by those standards, Dr. Mario kind of failed. But it's the much better implementation of this than Mario Kart Tour. So, I don't know. And the thing is, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, like, I don't see how this is going to do well long. Like, obviously it had the biggest opening. Mario Kart's the single biggest selling game on Switch, on Wii U, on 3DS. Like, it's a powerhouse. One you don't really think about, but it's a powerhouse. And I just can't see in its current form the long tail of this working out for Nintendo.
I can't, because how much did you say Fire Emblem made?
67 million.
67 million for Fire Emblem. For Fire Emblem.
In the first month. Yeah, but that's all the weeboos who love those sorts of games.
Yeah, but how many more people like Mario Kart?
Well, right, but I'm saying, like, if the control hurdles are there and if the monetization's at more, like, out of place feeling, are they going to stick around? I've seen a ton of people being like, I can't handle the controls and deleting it. You're already dropping out and you get the controls.
No, yeah, but...
No, he just got Bowser. He's not dropping out.
Well, he was dropping out until he got Bowser.
Yeah,
and that's how they hook you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we know better, but, like, already in the past week, just like from working at like a couple high schools and middle schools,
kids love it,
and even elementary school. Yeah, no, they love it. Like, like they're like, "Oh, are you gonna play Mario Kart?" And I'm like, "Oh, not really. It's not that great." They're like, "What? No, I love this game." Like, high schoolers are eating it up.
Yeah, my sister. I've never seen my sister play a video game. She downloaded it.
Yeah, they just love it.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
I guess maybe for Nintendo, they'll luck out. Maybe this will.
Well, we see it. It's because, like, I don't know.
It's because we know what it should be.
We've been around the block already with
yeah
monetization, these kind of things, and they're just like, hey, it's a Mario Kart on my phone.
You know what's scary about that thought? That kid's like, oh yeah, this is how it is. There's going to be a period, a point in time, I don't know when, there's going to be an inflection point where paying for games, not paying in games, is going to be weird. And people will not understand why would you pay for a game up front. And all games are going to start going free to play, or through a subscription like Apple Arcade, or something like that. Because there's no reason, if you're a kid growing up with all these free games on your iPad, why would you be like, yeah, I'll pay $60 for that when you can get, like, a Mario Kart on your phone for free?
Yeah, if you grew up with that mentality, it would be like, wait, $60 for Link's Awakening?
Yeah, I mean, you guys...
Which I think is ridiculous. Nintendo, you need to cut that crap out.
Yeah, like, we as seasoned gamers are...
Stop.
Bad Nintendo, bad. I think we're just scolding them for the last 10 minutes, but,
No, it's well-deserved.
Yeah.
Mario Kart Tour?
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
crap.
like, just think about the fact that, like, kids are... eating this up. Apparently, what does that mean for the next year? Like, at what point is like actual full games a thing?
I mean, it seems like maybe they did full well know what they were doing.
They know what they're
They figured
doing.
like, hey,
world.
a lot of the core main or maybe older people won't like this, but the majority. I mean, like the kids outnumber us, so.
I hate to say it, but we have officially become the old man that yells at clouds.
I mean, you just look at Emoji Movie. Like, everyone clearly knew it was a bad movie and hated it and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I saw it on Netflix, and it was terrible.
Didn't it bomb still?
No, it made a ton of money.
No, I thought it bombed.
It bombed.
Yeah,
Didn't
it
it?
bombed.
I thought it got
Bombed.
a sequel and everything.
No, it is getting a sequel.
Wait, what?
I think it is.
No.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying no, not because it's not, because I don't want it
like,
to.
it bombed in relation to, like, every other anime movie that
it
makes
did okay.
No, I'm saying like it made its money. Like, I know like it didn't beat out like.
I
other movies that
think at
year.
this point all we can hope for is that Nintendo.
I'm saying like
keeps-
it was profitable. Like it did its job.
So
It made 4 times its
budget.
Its budget.
Oh god, that's not bomb. So I think
Yeah.
I think
bomb means you lose money.
I know,
usually,
yeah. I think
So I was right.
perhaps that means there's a two-prong approach. Perhaps
Dude, like in elementary
back
school,
off
like
with Nintendo.
emojis are so like every other kid has a backpack of like.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. So I'm
it's
thinking,
crazy.
okay, for now, Nintendo could ride out 2 prongs. They can do the stupid gotcha stuff on mobile and whatever, and then they can have their more traditional stuff on their regular console. But at some point, one prong is going to overtake the other, and when that happens,
Hopefully I'm
kids
dead
these
by
days.
then.
Yeah, hopefully we're dead by then. That's all I gotta say. But speaking of getting full games up front, let's give away some games, shall we? We have our 2 copies of Truck Racing Championship to give away. Which
How would I acquire a copy
So
of?
I'm glad you asked, Kevin. Let me tell you.
Because guess who's entering that competition? Your boy.
Yeah, so for the record, you are affiliated with the podcast. I don't know if you can win, but we'll check the legal after. Check with legal, but
I
please
didn't
enter.
sign no contract. What is this? Yo, no.
I know, it's not like we're
That's
paying
true.
you. We only gave you Wolfenstein for free. But
That's your face is on
Oh,
the
I was gonna hold that over
no,
me.
of course
You
I'm
heard
not.
that?
Of course I'm not. He actually, in reality, most of the games we get, which are few and far between, but we appreciate when we do, usually go either to Angel or to you, I would guess, just in terms of
I
who
feel like
has
I
the
got
time.
like 2.
You got like 12. What are you talking about? We'll go over the list later. Anyway, point is, if you, the listener, want some free games, what we're going to do...
keeps all the good ones.
Is
We'll
there-
give you the trash
Yeah,
ones.
of course.
That's not entirely true, but it's partly true.
Wolfenstein runs like crap. I'll give it a hint.
So I didn't know that at the time. You told me that after you played it. But no, if you want to enter to win Truck Racing Championship, which you can rewind if you haven't heard the impressions, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to tweet out later this week, and then you retweet the tweet and follow us.
We?
That's it. We as Random Nintendo as an entity. Yes.
Keep saying that. You keep saying that
that's-
entity stuff.
So,
the
so I have
royal
a
we.
question. When you are at work, at your job, do you refer to your company as like this other third person, or do you say we because you're part of the organization?
No, I refer to a third person because I'm proper. Eat it.
Wow, that's not the answer I expected. I was hoping to go my way. Okay, so yeah, go to our Twitter at Round Nintendo sometime this week. Keep an eye out. I will. It will be tweeted. It will be tweeted, and then just follow and retweet, and that's your chance to win. It's also a good way to stay in
that
tune.
That sounds right. Like it would be tweeted by Random Nintendo.
Well, okay, but Random Nintendo is comprised of multiple people. and
But
those
who
people
has access to the Twitter account?
He does too.
When's the last time you tweeted from
That's
that
different.
account?
That's a different question.
No,
That's a different question.
Wait, do I have access?
You do. You do.
When was the
You
last
have
time you
password.
tweeted that you tweeted from that account?
He never does, but he can if he wishes.
I was on that immediately.
I heard giggling in the background. Anyway, the point is, go to our Twitter this week and you can enter or win. And it's also good to follow us because you will make sure you don't miss our next episode, which comes on October 13th. And we're going to settle something once and for all in that episode. There's been a lot of talk about Super Mario World and whether it's truly the best Mario game.
It's not.
It is. And we're going to hash it out. This conversation, but like an hour of it. So tune in October 13th for that. The answer is yes, it is. Angel will have a chance to explain why he thinks it's no, and then we'll have a chance to tell him why his opinion's wrong. So it'll be good. But along with that, we'll, of course, have the latest news and game impressions and what have you. So make sure you don't miss that. Again, we're on Twitter, but you can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, soon Pandora, I'm hoping. I applied to it for us. TuneIn and some others. So, yeah, there's... Oh, and YouTube. We're Random Nintendo.com on YouTube. So, yeah, that pretty much does it. As always, is there anything else from anyone, or should I give Kevin the final word?
I'm good.
Kevin?
You keep doing this, like...
That's like 7 words. That's too many. Too many words.
Just end the podcast.
Okay.